Lord of Mystery, The Return of the Stars Chapter 391-400. The fall of George III, in addition to causing great chaos on the first day, became the subject of after-dinner gossip on the second day, and various legends about George III's bizarre death spread. Some said that he had offended the gods, which was why he was suddenly punished by the gods. Others said that it was an assassination by the Fussic Empire. All the major well-known newspapers in the Kingdom of Lowen were also publishing this incident. In less than a day or two, the news had spread throughout the Kingdom of Lowen. Under the instruction of the Lowen royal family, the Fussic Empire became the culprit of this incident. In the border area, the army of the Kingdom of Lowen had begun to attack the Fussic Empire. On the second day after the fall of George III, his successor, Covington Augustus, appeared in everyone's sight. He was full of ambition to annex the Fussic Empire and complete the great feat of expanding the territory. He did not look sad at all. Just succeeded like this? Knowing that something big was going to happen, Furs and Hugh did not attend George III's speech that day, but closed the door and hid at home. It was not until the second day after George III fell that Hugh, who was out to inquire about the news, saw the relevant records in the newspaper and bought a newspaper to go home. Furs looked at the content of the newspaper with disbelief. The eye-catching headline, "The Great King George III was assassinated," reminded her that this was true. "The wise man is so amazing," Hugh said with a look of longing and regret. "If I had known that day, I would not have hidden at home with you, so that I could have seen the scene of George III's fall with my own eyes." "Hush, you are looking for death. Don't talk so loudly," Furs hurriedly reminded Hugh to be careful. Hugh took Furs's hand and showed a flattering smile on his face. "Okay, I just feel a little pity. On such a great day, I can only stay in the room with you, and I have to worry about whether someone will come to my door for revenge." Tisk, when the explosion sounded, "You were still glad that you didn't attend George III's speech. Real wise thing." Hugh was embarrassed and could only pretend to be stupid and didn't answer. Just as the two were chatting and joking, a pea vine grew out of the hall, and the top intertwined into a swing with green vines and pink and white flowers. The sage was sitting on this fairy tale swing, gently swinging it up and down. Furs and Zio stopped playing, looked at Bernadette on the swing, and then looked at each other. They knew that the sage was in a good mood today. "The matter of George III has been resolved, and I will leave Backland in a while," Bernadette explained her purpose. "Sage, don't you care about us?" It was Furs who spoke. They were believers of the stars. If the sage hadn't been protecting them all this time, they would have been captured by the members of the evil organization lurking in the dark. "No one can live under the protection of others all the time," Bernadette said in a light tone. "Okay." The light in Furs' eyes dimmed. Zio said, "Where's the sage going next?" "The sea." Bernadette paused for a moment after saying this, with an inexplicable look on her face. "Maybe he will go back to his hometown to take a look." "That's great." Zio didn't know what to say, so he could only look at Furs and let Furs take up the topic. Furs didn't respond, staring at the swing that was constantly shaking. She didn't know what to say. They and the sage were from two different worlds, and their relationship was only average. "Take care of yourself." Bernadette left the last sentence and disappeared, leaving Zio and Furs looking at each other. "Shoo, our hard days are about to begin again. Yes, we should also move to a new residence. Living here is too conspicuous." Count Hall's house. Audrey, who had returned home safely, looked at Susie, who was still sleeping, with a worried look. It had been several days, and Susie had not shown any signs of waking up or eating. This made Audrey worried that Susie's body could not bear it, so she specially asked someone to invite Mr. Hasta to come and discuss. Meow. A meow sounded from the window, and Audrey subconsciously looked over. It was a black cat with shiny black fur. At this moment, it was walking gracefully from the edge of the window step by step, with a pair of dark blue eyes, not afraid of people looking into the room. "This black cat, is it the one that Mr. Hasta has been holding in his arms? I remember its name is Azishara." Audrey looked at Azishara for a while and recognized Azishara's identity. She thought that Mr. Hasta was talking with Earl Hall, and Azishara was bored and came out to stroll around. It seemed to care about Susie. Audrey could feel that Azishara's eyes were mainly on Susie. Soon, Azishara's inquiring eyes were retracted at the beginning, and she raised her head slightly, and her two front legs stepped with an elegant rhythm, jumping from the edge of the window to the desk, and then jumping in front of Audrey. The whole process was nimble and silent. "Does your master trust you to come out and play by yourself?" Audrey squatted down and wanted to reach out and touch Azishara's head. "Meow." Azishara dodged lightly, bypassed Audrey, and came in front of Susie. Then, under Audrey's curious and shocked eyes, it raised its right front leg and patted Susie's head. This force was not strong, but it made Susie's eyelids tremble slightly, and she showed signs of waking up. Audrey remained silent and watched. Snapped. Azishara raised her little paw and patted Susie's head several times, causing a double image. The sleeping Susie finally reluctantly opened her eyelids and glanced around with confused eyes. Only when she saw Audrey was there did she feel relieved. His eyes turned to Azishara, who woke him up. At this moment, Azishara had turned her back, leaving Susie with a proud back. Then, under Susie's curious gaze, Azishara nimbly jumped onto the desk, then jumped to the edge of the window, and slowly disappeared from sight. Susie withdrew her gaze and tried to stand up. As soon as she stood firm, her limbs trembled slightly, and then her whole body fell down again. Susie, who was lying on the ground, said weakly, "Audrey, I'm so hungry." Audrey sighed speechlessly. "Just wait, I'll have someone prepare it for you." Susie closed her eyes again, as if she had no strength to speak anymore. Audrey left the room and caught a glimpse of Mr. Hasta and Alfred, Earl Hall chatting in the lobby on the first floor. With a smile on her face, she said hello and went to the kitchen. Then she saw a black shadow jump out of the kitchen window, then jump onto the roof, and finally disappear. Azishara also had a plump dried fish in her mouth. The corners of Audrey's mouth raised slightly. It turned out to be a greedy kitten. She walked into the kitchen herself, arranged a big meal for Susie, and got some fine dried fish. When Hasta finished chatting with Alfred and Earl Hall, he came to Audrey's study. They saw Susie lying on her back, exposing her rounded belly. Audrey was sitting in front of the desk, holding her cheek with her left hand, holding a small dried fish in her right hand, shaking it gently, with smiling eyes, tempting her to think outside the window. Azishara wanted to leave but was reluctant to leave Xiaoyugan. Her two eyebrows were extremely tangled in a fight. Hasta watched at the door for a while, wanting to see what Azishara would make in the end when faced with the temptation of dried fish. Woof! Before Asta could watch for long, Susie glanced out of the corner of her eye, raised her head and let out a bark, and Audrey hurriedly put down the dried fish in her hand and turned around. In this short moment, Azishara swooped over. He picked up the dried fish that Audrey had put on the table, turned around deftly and returned to the window sill, held the dried fish in his mouth, held his head high, and left with elegant steps. When Audrey saw this scene, she frowned slightly and pursed her cheeks. However, she realized that Asta was looking at her, so she put away her child's innocent manner and returned to her original elegance. "Mr. Hasta, why didn't you say anything just now?" Audrey changed the subject. Hasta's eyes were smiling. "I was just admiring the battle of wits and courage between you and Azishara." Audrey's cheeks turned slightly red and she glared at Hasta. It's only Mr. Hasta who taught her well that Azishara is so smart. "Susie is also very smart." "Woof," Susie echoed, and this sentence deeply touched its heart. Mr. Hasta seems to like Susie very much. Who can resist a golden retriever who is smart and can read? Audrey raised her eyebrows slightly and said deliberately, "I still prefer Azishara." "Susie, it seems your master doesn't want you anymore. Do you want to stay with me for a few days?" "Wow." Susie agreed immediately. "No." Audrey rolled her eyes at Susie, walked over, rubbed Susie's head, and said angrily, "Susie, I am so kind to you in vain. You're willing to bully me with Mr. Hasta?" "Woof." Susie looked at Hasta with an innocent face, then remained silent, and gently nudged Audrey's palm with her head, indicating that she already knew she was wrong. Audrey nodded with satisfaction, then stretched out a finger to poke Susie's head gently. "Also, don't read so many books in the future." Woof. In the study, Audrey and Hasta sat on the sofa, enjoying afternoon tea at Earl Hall's house. Susie lay at the feet of lazy Audrey. looking at Azishara curled up in Hastur's arms from time to time. Azishara, who had eaten the dried fish secretly, turned around, then came back, and took away the dried fish that Audrey had brought specially, hiding in Hastur's arms. "You said Susie was awakened by Azishara?" After listening to Audrey's description of Susie's awakening, Hastur looked down in surprise at Azishara, who was eating dried fish contentedly. How could he not know that Azishara could heal diseases? Did she learn it from Sharon? Facing Hastur's disbelief, Azishara closed her eyes and was too lazy to explain. Yes, Susie had been sleeping all the time until Azishara's arrival, which woke her up from her sleep. Audrey described in detail how Azishara awakened Susie. Susie, who was lying on the ground, also quietly pricked up her ears to eavesdrop. Asta was silent for a while, and looked at Azishara with a complicated expression, if he guessed correctly. Azishara patted Susie's head, not thinking of waking Susie up in this way, but just seeing Susie sleeping, she wanted to pat Susie a few times. But she didn't expect Susie to wake up at this time, which gave Audrey the illusion just now. Meow. Ashera responded in a low voice, and then buried her head. Asta didn't explain to Audrey, but just smiled and said, "Maybe they have a way of communication that we humans can't understand." Woof. Woof. Susie subconsciously wanted to communicate with Azishara in dog language. Azishara squinted at Susie lazily, and then meowed reluctantly. Susie stood up from the ground, her eyes widened, and looked at Azishara in disbelief. Do they really have their own way of communication? Even if one is a dog and the other is a cat? Audrey looked back and forth curiously at Susie and Azishara, but still couldn't believe Asta's words. Ants and bees have their own language, not to mention clever and magical creatures like Susie and Azishara. Azishara too? Yes, she is a natural assassin. Audrey showed an expression of enlightenment. No wonder her little tricks could not deceive Azishara. It turned out that Azishara, like Susie, had intelligence no less than that of humans. Is it childish to tempt Azishara with dried fish just now? Meow. Azishara meowed at the right time, as if she heard Audrey's little thoughts. She couldn't help but sneak a glance at Azishara, and then found that she was thinking too much. Azishara just urged Mr. Hastur to give her another dried fish to eat. You have already eaten a lot today, and your belly is almost full. Meow. Azishara immediately lost her temper and lay in Hastur's arms without moving. Audrey envied the interaction between Mr. Hastur and Azishara, and then inadvertently glanced at Susie, whose belly was already full, and sighed. Susie was obviously very cute when she was little, so small that you could hold her in your arms and feed her goat milk occasionally. Now, Susie is so strong that it is difficult for her to pick her up from the ground. Woof. Susie looked up and looked at Audrey. The meaning in her eyes was very clear. Is it my fault that she grew up? At around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Hastur left Earl Hall's house. He was originally invited by Audrey to see Susie today, but he didn't expect to be solved by Azishara by accident, which saved him a lot of time. He also said goodbye to Audrey. After a few days, when Backland returns to its former tranquility, he will set off to return to South Wales. Back home, Azishara jumped out of Hastur's arms and accurately found Sharon, who had arrived at some point. Meow, meow. Azishara meowed again and again, as if she was discussing something with Sharon, or secretly telling her something. Hastur ignored the clever Azishara and said to Sharon, "This time Marich wants to return to South Wales with us. What do you think?" Sharon did not answer, but just looked at Hastur. "I will reject Marich's request right now. He is young and it is time for him to work hard. It is best for him to stay in a big city like Backland," Hastur said quickly. Sharon retracted her gaze and lowered her head to stroke Azishara's little head. At about 9 o'clock in the evening, Hastur came to the Brave Bar and righteously rejected Marich's idea of going to South Wales. Marich's already pale face was like a corpse buried deep in the soil after being dead for many days. He stared at Hastur with resentful eyes, a guy who forgets his friends for the sake of beauty. Hastur turned a deaf ear to this and looked natural. He drank the wine while tasting the quality of this glass of wine. "You pay for the drinks tonight. No problem." Asta raised his lips slightly and generously took out a stack of 10-pound notes from his jacket pocket. then counted out 10 of them in front of Marich and put them on the table. This money is enough for you to drink for 3 days and 3 nights. Marich was speechless. Do you think you can use money to make up for your behavior of forgetting your friends for the sake of beauty? Forget it. Asta pretended to take back the money, but Marich had already pressed the money with his right hand. There is no reason to take back the money you have taken out. Asta sighed and leaned back slightly. Spilled water can be taken back without a drop leaking out, let alone a word. It is normal to say that spilled water cannot be taken back. But in this extraordinary world, it is very easy to do this. Marich snorted twice, without refutation, and then called the bartender to take 5 10-gold-pound notes from the table and gave them to him, asking him to go out and shout that all the guests' consumption tonight will be paid by Mr. Asta. Asta almost coughed out the wine in his mouth, but fortunately he held it back in the end. Marich, you are really a talent. Asta gave a heartfelt compliment. Do you need to say that? Marich glanced at him disdainfully. When Asta came out of the billiard room, the bartender greeted him loudly. Mr. Asta, thank you for your generosity tonight. This greeting made the drinkers in the bar look over, and then the thanks came one after another. Asta's face was slightly stiff, and Marich hid in the shadows to watch the joke. Then he left the brave bar under the gaze of the happy drinkers. Just as he came out to breathe some fresh air, a carriage stopped beside him in time, waiting for him to get on. Asta took a look and found that the carriage was not from his family, and it did not look like it was hired by the brave bar. Earl Campbell, you are really hard to hire. A voice with hidden anger came from the carriage. Who are you? Hee hee. The person in the carriage chuckled twice, pulled open the curtain, and revealed his face. Oh, it's George III's son, the second prince. What's his specific name? Asta thought for a while and really couldn't remember. He only remembered that the second prince had threatened him because of the former Grand Duke of Southwell. Is the second prince okay? Asta asked politely. Leonard Augustus said with a dark face. I'm a prince now. Forgot about it. Asta looked dazed, then sighed. King George III's voice and smile are still in front of me. Leonard Augustus didn't expect Asta to say such a thing, so he couldn't blame the other party for his impoliteness. Get in the car, I have something important to discuss with you, he frowned and said in an imperative tone. I drank a lot of wine and need to go home to rest, or does the second prince want to argue with a drunk person? Leonard Augustus suppressed his anger and said, you can go wash your face first, and then you will be sober. No, Asta refused directly and didn't bother to pay attention to him. Leonard Augustus was so angry that his face turned black. Finally, he angrily lowered the curtain and let the coachman drive the carriage away. George III just died. I'm not interested in getting involved in the affairs of your royal family. Asta knew the other party's purpose for looking for him without having to guess. At present, he has become famous in South Wales County. In addition, the Grand Duke of South Wales fell into the water and died. He is already the actual controller of South Wales County. In addition, he is still very young, and he is indeed worth winning over. Maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, when Covington II has time, he will send someone to find him. He is not interested in participating in such troublesome things. Let Earl Hall and others worry about standing in line. Sure enough, the next afternoon, the new king of Lowen Kingdom, Covington II, sent someone to invite him to participate in tonight's dinner. Earl Hall, Prime Minister and other powerful nobles have received invitations. Asta didn't want to participate in these things, but he hasn't left Backland yet, so there is really no reason to refuse. Moreover, this Covington II has just come to power. If he refuses, it will give people too many associations. Therefore, Hastur went to Earl Hall's house first, and then followed him to attend the dinner tonight. Even if there was something, Earl Hall would be there to discuss it with him. The dinner was held in a garden in the palace. Hastur followed Count Hall to greet the nobles who came to attend the dinner. Count Hall introduced their respective origins to Hastur. This also gave Hastur a better understanding of the upper-class nobles of the Lowen Kingdom. Some nobles who are about the same age as Earl Hall always casually ask about Hastur's marriage status during casual conversations. Some nobles even wanted to betroth their daughters to Hastur on the spot. In this regard, Earl Hall had a sullen face throughout the whole process, not knowing what he was thinking about. Asta could only refuse their hospitality by saying that he was still young and wanted to start a career first and then start a family. Your father was already famous when he was your age. Georgina Augustus, wearing a burgundy evening dress, came from a short distance away and looked at Hastur with burning eyes. As for Duke Georgina, Hastur had met her once before, and it seemed that she had an unclear relationship with his father. Future generations should learn from those who came before, so that they are less likely to make mistakes, Hastur responded calmly. You have nothing like his personality, so I'm a little interested in you. Georgina Augustus lightly lifted her hair that fell to her ears, held the wine glass closer, and breathed out the seductive aroma from her red lips. Hastur moved a small step towards Earl Hall without leaving a trace, also raised his glass and said with a smile, "This is my honor. You don't seem to be very good at talking about love, nor are you very good at socializing. In this regard, your father is much better than you," Georgina Augustus said, looking at Earl Hall again, and said meaningfully, "A treasure without an owner, but everyone wants it. I don't like to interfere in things between young people. This is their own problem. As elders, we only need to watch them grow and occasionally provide them with a little help." Earl Hall emphasized the word elder. "I don't think I'm old." After speaking with a smile, Georgina Augustus left here and went to chat with other nobles. The most important thing in interpersonal interactions is to keep your eyes open so as not to be fooled by people's appearance, Earl Hall said pointedly. Next, Earl Hall also went to reminisce with the nobles he was familiar with. Hastur silently tasted the delicacies at tonight's dinner and looked at the luxurious life of this drunken and lantern-obsessed man. In his heart, he no longer yearned for the path of the Black Emperor. The further this path goes, the more inseparable it becomes from this entertainment. Instead of wasting time on these uninteresting things, choose extraordinary avenues where you can walk around and see something. Speaking of which, he has been in the mysterious world for so long and has never been abroad. He has been wandering around the territory of the Kingdom of Loan. If he goes back this time, he can visit other countries. The Republic of Intis is a good choice. Bernadette also seems to be interested in returning to her hometown. The only thing that needs to be noted is that the followers of the Superstar Lord and the Mother Tree of Desire are also there. If you go to the Republic of Intis, you may increase the risk of exposing your true identity. Hastur was tasting the food while thinking about the next arrangements. It wasn't until Govington II appeared that he put down the tableware in his hands and went to where everyone gathered. The great prince of the past, today's Govington II, is surrounded by stars and the moon in the center position. Just by changing his identity, he already has a bit of the old-fashioned and serious look of George III. He looked unsmiling, and only nodded slightly to the flattery of the nobles, without much expression of happiness or joy. Tisk, this level is not enough. On the surface, he looks old-fashioned, serious and unsmiling, which seems to be more dignified, but in fact it is a forced performance, so he does not dare to show his mood at will. If George III attended such a dinner, he would definitely have a cheerful smile on his face and greet every nobleman naturally. He does not need to deliberately control his mood. What needs to be disguised are those nobles who want to flatter themselves, but are concerned about their appearance and are afraid of being ugly. As a king, he is the center, and the world around him is an extension of his will. Hastur mentally commented on Govington II. Although he helped strangle George III to death, he could not deny that George III was a pretty good king. The new king is not much older than you, and he likes to promote young people. This is your chance, Earl Hall said in a low voice next to Hastur. Hastur nodded and said, "Thank you Earl Hall for the reminder. I will try my best to leave a good impression in front of the new king." Earl Hall said nothing more, but looked through the crowd at Govington II who was surrounded in the center. The new king was ambitious and wanted to expand his territory and become a greater king than George III. Now, the conquest of the Fosic Empire is an excellent opportunity. Govington II chatted with the surrounding nobles for a long time before his eyes fell on Earl Hall. "Earl Hall, isn't Miss Audrey here tonight?" Earl Hall had a straight face and replied seriously, "She had a stomachache this afternoon and really couldn't come to tonight's dinner. She feels sorry for that." A string of questions arose in Hastur's mind. Isn't tonight's dinner for discussing political affairs? Even the noble ladies were not included in the invitation list, So how could Audrey be specially invited to attend? Govington too smiled and said, since Miss Audrey is not feeling well, let me ask the doctors in the palace to go and see her. Their medical skills are pretty good. Thank you for your kindness. Earl Hall bowed slightly. Govington too looked past Earl Hall and looked at Asta, smiling and said, Earl Campbell, my second brother who will go to Southwell County to take office will need your care. This is my duty and honor. Asta responded naturally, thinking about the second prince's intention to stop him last night. It turned out that he was the candidate sent to Southwell County to succeed the Grand Duke of Southwell. It seems that the Lowen royal family should know that Drink Augustus has died. That's why they took back the Southwell County awarded to his descendants and gave it to Prince Leonard. Earl Campbell, we have to get closer in the future. Leonard Augustus, standing next to Govington too, had a strong smile in his eyes. After leaving the banquet, Asta saw that Earl Hall seemed to be in a bad mood. When only two people were about to get on their carriages to be alone, he asked Earl Hall what he was worried about. Earl Hall got on the carriage in silence. After a while, he lifted the curtain and waved to Asta, indicating that he should get on the carriage to talk. Earl Hall's carriage was very spacious. It didn't look very colorful on the outside, but the decoration inside was very tasteful and luxurious. Asta got on the carriage and sat opposite Earl Hall, quietly waiting for Earl Hall to speak. The new king got married a few years ago, but Prince Leonard still has no marriage partner. Earl Hall said here, his tone turned heavy. Does he want to marry you? Yes. Earl Hall nodded, and then said, I won't force Audrey to do things she doesn't like to do, and I don't want to interfere too much in her marriage. Asta fully understood Earl Hall's concerns. Audrey is the Pearl of Backland, and the Lowen royal family has always wanted Audrey to marry into the royal family. Unfortunately, those royal children were not up to the task. Audrey didn't like any of them, nor did she get close to any prince. When George III was still alive, there was no hurry, but now that the new king was in power, he would have to win over some powerful nobles, and marriage was a very useful means. This means is popular and trusted by the upper class regardless of China or foreign countries, ancient or modern times. The question asked by King Covington II tonight already showed this trend. For Earl Hall, this is indeed a troublesome matter. If he refused directly, it would easily cause bad feelings. Now that King Covington II is still young, he will naturally not do anything, but in the future, Earl Hall will definitely be kept away from the political center. But this kind of thing is nothing to Audrey. Just delay it for another 2 or 3 years, and when she becomes a demigod or an angel, she will directly reveal her identity, and the Lowen royal family represented by King Covington II will definitely not dare to have some messy ideas again. Do you have any good countermeasures? Earl Hall threw this question to Asta. His eyes were pressing and very serious. I think the best way is to delay it first, and wait until Miss Audrey is a few years older, and then she can make a decision herself. Asta gave his advice honestly. Hey, do you still need to tell me this method? Earl Hall's face darkened, and he asked Asta to get off the car so that he would not stay here to affect his mood. Asta watched Earl Hall's carriage go away. He certainly knew what advice Earl Hall wanted to hear, but this was too disrespectful to Audrey. And a Covington too was not enough for him to compromise with Audrey. The Lowen royal family sounds powerful, but Audrey is protected by the Fool, and her status is no lower than that of the God-favored in the Orthodox Church. Moreover, there is a Susie, who has inherited the legacy of a psychic dragon, and has a promising future. Maybe in the future, there will be a drama where Audrey stands on the head of the psychic dragon transformed by Susie, makes a scene in the Lowen royal family, and leaves Backland openly. Needless to say, after the death of George III, the power of the Lowen royal family was greatly weakened, and it might not even be comparable to the Yellow Monk organization. So, this is not a problem worth worrying about at all. Perhaps I should have said it more tactfully just now, so that Earl Hall can relax. Asta did not think about it any more and left in the carriage. In the palace, the study room that was originally reserved for George III was now occupied by Govington II. On his left and right sides, there were 6 other members of the royal family, sitting in 2 rows. Leonard Augustus, Grove Augustus, Georgina Augustus and others. Govington too glanced at everyone with a solemn gaze, and then looked at Leonard. I am asking you to go to South Wales this time. Firstly, it is to train you, and secondly, I hope you can find out about the Grand Duke of Southwell. Whether he died in an accident or not. Third, pay attention to Earl Campbell. He looks very young, but he is not an easy person to deal with. I understand. Leonard nodded, with a hint of ridicule at the corner of his mouth. He has been rejecting my kindness, as if he was afraid that I would get him into some trouble. I'm afraid he thought I was interested in this throne. Woolen cloth. He and Govington too are biological brothers, and they have long had no idea of competing for the throne. Earl Hall's family, that old fox, has never wanted to marry Miss Audrey into the royal family. We need to find an opportunity to give him a beating. A trace of evil flashed in Govington I's eyes. Georgina chuckled and said, if Backland's pearl is not kept in the palace, it will be stained with dust and no longer bright. A royal duke on the side said, this is not the main reason. Some people predict that Audrey Hall will become a big figure in the mysterious world in the future, just like Bernadette back then. Zarathul, yes, on the night when I ascended the throne, he suddenly found me and said that he could predict the future of 3 people for me. Govington took up the subject. He continued, but these 3 choices were not decided by me, but by those chosen by him. These 3 people are Greg Negan, Audrey Hall, and Hasta Campbell. He predicted that Greg Negan would become a big shot in the real world, Audrey Hall would become a big shot in the mysterious world, and Hasta Campbell. He hasn't told me about his predictions yet. What's interesting is that the 3 of them are connected by Hasta Campbell, and they have a good relationship with each other. When Govington too said this, his brows were filled with a chill. I can't guess Zarathul's intention when he told me these words. Is he trying to calculate something, or is he really seeing a future? It doesn't matter. Prevent me from paying extra attention to them. Georgina said coldly. Don't trust that person's words too much. He is not so kind. It's best for you to stay away from him. I have always been on guard against him. Govington too nodded, then revealed the matter and asked about the whereabouts of the remaining copy of the Sequence 1 Prince Killer's extraordinary characteristics and uniqueness after the explosion in the tomb of George III. Encountering a true god-level blow, the entire mausoleum was completely shattered and exposed to the sun. Among them, the ancestor of the Augustus family, William I, rushed to the scene immediately after the big explosion, but he could only grab a copy of Prince Murder's extraordinary characteristics. According to his description, when he arrived at the scene, the uniqueness and 1 copy of Prince Murder's extraordinary characteristics had disappeared, leaving only 2 copies of Prince Murder's extraordinary characteristics. In addition to him, there is also a mysterious lady and Bernadette holding a wishing lamp. Faced with the cooperation between the mysterious lady and Bernadette, he could only barely grab a copy of Prince Murder's extraordinary characteristics, while the other copy fell into the hands of the mysterious lady. For the Lowen royal family, every copy of the Black Emperor's Prince Murderer's extraordinary characteristics is very important, but now they only have 1 copy of the Prince Murderer's extraordinary characteristics left, which seriously weakens the strength of the Augustus family. Not to mention wanting to be on an equal footing with the 3 gods' church in the future. On that day, someone saw an illusory door slowly opening. According to the runes on it, it looked very much like the emblem of the Abraham family. Recently, people from the Abraham family have been very active in Backland, and they have announced that their ancestor, Mr. Men, is about to return. The uniqueness and the extraordinary characteristics of Prince Murder are very likely to be snatched away by Mr. Men through the illusory door. Someone stood up and talked about the results of the investigation during this period. Mr. Door. Everyone present was in a solemn mood. He was a legendary figure. Even if George III became a god, he would at best be equal to him. That is a figure who is not a true god but is not inferior to a true god. Could it be that the uniqueness and the extraordinary characteristics of Prince Murder were taken away by Russell from the air? Hastur sat in the Palace of Stars, reviewing what happened that day. After he attracted the attack of the Superstar Master and completely destroyed the portal that Mr. Door and the fallen Mother Goddess wanted to break out of, George III completely exploded, and the uniqueness and the extraordinary characteristics of the 3 copies of Prince Slayer also exploded at that time. The uniqueness was mixed with the extraordinary characteristics of Prince Murderer, and turned into a stream of light and flew towards the East Sea. The other two copies of Prince Murderer's extraordinary characteristics were slower, and were blocked by Bernadette, Madame Lisa, and a powerful person from the Lowen royal family. During the fight, Lady Lisa took away a copy of Prince Murderer's prince. Another copy of extraordinary characteristics fell into the hands of the Lowen royal family. If accidental factors are eliminated, it is reasonable for Russell to wake up and take away the uniqueness and a copy of the extraordinary characteristics of Prince Murderer. Especially at that time, the fallen mother goddess was trying to take advantage of the opportunity to come through Mr. Door, which was enough to distract most of her energy. It was normal for Russell to regain a certain degree of freedom. This is not necessarily a good thing. Hasta is a little worried that if Russell absorbs this uniqueness and this extraordinary characteristic of Prince Murder too early, because the contamination in the body has not been removed, it will accelerate the pace of infection by the fallen mother goddess. This may be the real plan of the fallen mother goddess. George III failed to be promoted to Black Emperor. Russell was resurrected and returned, and then he completely contaminated Russell and came to the real world. Thinking about it carefully, Russell shouldn't be that stupid. He has been entangled with the fallen mother goddess for so long, and he must be very aware of the horror of the fallen mother goddess. But Russell has extraordinary self-confidence and thinks that he is a well-deserved protagonist of this era. Hasta thought for a long time, looking at the starry sky above his head. The stars were twinkling, but the star that symbolized the fallen mother goddess was completely obscure. After watching for a while, he turned his gaze to the newly lit stars when he was promoted to Sequence 5 Chaos Instructor. With the previous experience of the Superstar Master, the Mother Tree of Desire, and the High-Dimensional Overlooker, after he was promoted, he did not immediately pull them to the Hall of Stars, but silently observed them. It can be regarded as identifying the old identities of the two outer gods. It should be the original hunger and unquenchable raving. Among them, the image of original hunger is that of a planet with a big mouth. With its mouth open, it can easily swallow a planet. Normally, he is very quiet. Devouring a planet is enough for him to digest it for tens of thousands of years. Only when hunger strikes again, will he wake up from his slumber and then prey on planets full of life. The Earth is the next planet that he has set his sights on, so he ran from the depths of the starry sky to stay outside the initial barrier. Constantly murmuring, his state is very strange. He seems to have no entity, but is composed of bursts of pure murmuring that echoes in the starry sky. Hasta has been observing him for a long time, but has never been able to see where his true form is. He has been floating in the starry sky, using his alluring whispers to attract and confuse other beings in the starry sky. Once a being is bewitched by his murmurings, it will become his food, slave, and possession, and it can no longer be broken away from. If one were to choose to join the Council of Stars, his priority would be primordial hunger, not him. As for the earlier Ring of Fate, Hasta had no intention of letting him join the Star Conference. This guy was deeply hidden and was related to fate. His level of difficulty was not much lower than that of the fallen mother goddess. Hasta scanned the stars again as usual, and seeing that nothing happened, he logged off and took a rest. 2 days later, Hasta took Sharon and left Backland under the resentful eyes of Marich and the farewells of Greco and Audrey. Woof. Oh, and Susie's send-off. Although it wanted to follow Hasta to adventure in South Wales, it ultimately chose to stay with Audrey. Greco glanced at Audrey, who was about to go back, and said with a smile, "I have something I want to talk to Miss Audrey about. I wonder if you have any other arrangements now." Audrey thought for a while and accepted the invitation. In the past few days, she had also heard a lot of rumors about the Lowen royal family and some about Gretel. "I heard that his official career was not going well." The two found a less crowded cafe to sit down and chat. "I recently received a prophecy, both about you and me." "What prophecy?" Audrey found a rare interest. "In the prophecy, I will become a big shot in the real world, and you will become a big shot in the mysterious world." Greco looked at Audrey, who was slightly shocked, and said with envy, "I didn't expect you to have gone so far in the mysterious world. It's far away, I'm afraid only Hasta can catch up with you." "Well, in every sense of the word." Audrey frowned slightly and said, "Where did this prophecy come from?" "Royalty." Audrey was in an even worse mood. She just wanted to be promoted in obscurity, but she didn't want to be the focus of the storm. The person who made this prediction is so hateful. If she has the chance and ability in the future, she will definitely beat him up. Let him taste the iron fist from justice. In Southwell County, when Hasta came back again, he had missed the 7th day of the death of Grand Duke Southwell. In order to express his condolences to him, he asked Keyes to send someone to prepare a valuable gift and send it to Grand Duke Southwell's home, and he must show his deep remembrance of Grand Duke Southwell. After dealing with this matter, Hasta began to look through the financial reports of 8 important ports during this period. Perhaps the southern continent has not yet invaded the Kingdom of Loan, which has led to a lot more merchant ships coming and going for business, especially some merchants from the Fasak Empire with a keen sense of smell. Although they did not move their families, they also transferred most of their assets to other countries. The land route is not easy to travel, and sea transportation is the most suitable. Several major ports in Southwell County, as transit stations, have made a lot of tax revenue. Hasta was not surprised. When a country is facing danger, merchants who are driven by profit will naturally make choices that are in their own interests. As long as they have enough wealth, they can live a rich life anywhere. As for the feelings of home and country, it is usually reserved for those lower-class people who have nowhere to go and no choice. So for this group of people, Hasta asked the port to raise taxes again. The reason was simple, that is, a large amount of taxes needed to be used to maintain public order during the war. Not even a few days after returning to Pennine Port, Alfred arrived in South Wales with Prince Leonard. The two seemed to have a good relationship. Prince Leonard invited Alfred to help him deal with some affairs. And Alfred did not refuse. He quickly resigned from Hasta, moved to the governor's mansion, and threw himself into the arms of Prince Leonard. Tisk, good birds choose trees to live in. After reading the latest intelligence sent back by the members of the Yellow Monks, Hasta sighed and silently crossed Alfred in his heart. Although there was nothing wrong with Alfred's choice, there was always a feeling of being abandoned. Maybe he really regarded Alfred as his own. "My Lord Earl, do you need me to send someone to punish him?" Keyes volunteered. He was already familiar with handling these things. "No, just let him go. After all, his father, Earl Hall, is a very good man, and Miss Audrey and I have a good relationship." Hasta waved his hand to stop Keyes's proposal, so that Alfred would not suffer at Keyes' hands. "When will you be promoted to Sequence 4? Hasta changed the subject. Keyes lowered his head and said awkwardly, "It should take a few years." Hasta leaned back slightly and stared at Keyes for a while. "Sometimes you need to find the reason for yourself. After so many years, your strength has not improved. Have you played it seriously?" Keyes lowered his head even lower, and after a while he whispered, "The Earl is teaching me that I have been busy with other things recently, and I haven't played it seriously for a long time." "Well, go down." After Keyes left, Hasta finished reading some other information, and then got up and left the study and went to Sharon's room. As soon as he came in, he saw Ashera hiding aside and eating dried fish, while Sharon was playing the silent puppet. Seeing Hasta coming, Ashera's first reaction was to hide the dried fish behind her, raise her head, meow softly, and show an innocent and cute look. Hasta did not remind her to remember to wipe the traces of eating from her mouth next time. When leaving Backland, Audrey specially prepared a large bag of dried fish for Ashera, which was temporarily confiscated by Hasta. Looking at this, it should be that she ran away and secretly took it out again. After a while, if the situation is stable, I plan to go to the Republic of Intis, as a vacation for myself. Hasta said his next plan. Sharon listened silently. Ashera looked at it for a while, and then secretly took out the dried fish hidden behind her, hiding in a dark corner where Hasta could not see, and feasted on it. Above the gray fog, Klein held the tarot meeting a week late on time. When Backland was preparing to deal with George III, he deliberately postponed the tarot meeting for a week just in case. Now that everything has been resolved smoothly, he should also popularize the matter of George III to the Tarot Club members who are still unaware of the inside story, and at the same time give Miss Magician a little warning. Miss Magician is so close to Bernadette, and Bernadette is a believer of the stars, it is hard not to doubt her true identity. Mr. Fool, good afternoon. Miss Magician, good afternoon. Audrey greeted all the members of the tarot club skillfully, and then sat down contentedly. After the matter of George III, she has completely digested the magic potion in her body and can move towards the Sequence 6 hypnotist. And she already knows the extraordinary materials needed to promote a hypnotist. Now she only needs to collect all the extraordinary materials in the tarot club to successfully promote. This time, she is completely ahead of Susie. Zeratul came to talk to me again. This old guy always speaks halfway. If it weren't for the fact that what he mentioned benefited me a lot, I would have kicked him out of my palace long ago. He predicted that my daughter would become a big figure in the mysterious world. This sentence is very useful to me, but he also said that my daughter would turn against me and hate me. How could my cute and caring little cotton-padded jacket leak? I asked Zeratul the reason for this, but Zeratul just showed a mysterious smile and refused to say a word. This made me want to beat him severely. Emile. On October 19th, I met the Earl of Marden's wife. Hey, she looks very much like her daughter, like a pair of sisters. But in terms of pleasing people, time can still add a lot to people. Tempting style. Klein calmly read the 3 Roussel diaries in front of him. He was basically immune to Emperor Roussel's romantic history and took the initiative to skip them. You can talk now. Klein pressed the 3 Russell diaries on the table, indicating that everyone in the tarot club could talk. The first person to speak was Alger. I want to know what happened to Backlund some time ago, and how George III fell. Was he really killed in an assassination? 4C originally wanted to answer this question, but after glancing at Mr. Fool, who seemed to be paying special attention to her today, she hurriedly shut up. It just so happened that she didn't want others to know that she had secretly reported to Mr. Fool. Mr. Hanged Man, I think I can answer some questions for you. Audrey gathered her thoughts and said to the crowd, that day, George III was delivering a speech to the nation at Memorial Day Square in Backlund. The speech was at the end. At that moment, his whole body suddenly exploded, and blood and pieces of flesh were scattered all over the floor. At the same time, there was a loud noise in the suburbs of Backlund, which spread to the outer area of Backlund and destroyed many houses. Quote, afterwards, the Kingdom of Lowen and the Church of the 3 Gods came forward and agreed that it was an assassin sent by the Fuzak Empire who assassinated George III at a critical moment. Then the newly appointed Govington II used this as a reason to declare full war on the Fasak Empire. Audrey briefly explained what happened that day, and 4C and Emlyn also listened attentively. They both chose to stay at home that day and did not go out to attend George III's lecture. George III definitely did not die from an assassination. After listening to the story, Alger gave his opinion with confidence. That was Backlund, a place watched by the gods. No matter how powerful the assassins of the Fuzak Empire were, they would not be able to assassinate George III on that day and still escape successfully. There is definitely something else going on here. This is not something I can know. Audrey said calmly. I know. 4C shouted a few words in her heart, but she did not ask to exchange this matter for a certain amount of gold pounds. She was afraid that her identity would be exposed accidentally. Klein, who had been paying attention to Miss Magician, saw that she was hesitant to speak. This time, Klein did not leave the opportunity to Miss Magician. He controlled the world and spoke in a hoarse voice. I know some inside information, but this information is very important, and you need to pay a certain amount of compensation. Can. Audrey immediately agreed to the deal, while 4C and Alger were stunned for a while. One is that he regrets that he should have stood up and reached a deal with the rich Miss Justice. Regarding the news that George III will become a god, selling it for 500 gold pounds should not be a problem, right? One is the shocking level of Miss Justice's wealth. Her decisive and crisp voice can only be spoken with confidence by people with a lot of wealth. The world naturally recounted the small report 4C made to Mr. Fool last time, slightly adding and deleting a few sentences. After saying that, Mr. Fool, who was sitting at the top, glanced at 4C. The meaning of knocking is clear. 4C panicked and quickly lowered his head. She knew that Mr. Fool had begun to doubt her identity after the last whistle-blowing incident. so this time she specifically used the words of the world of believers to warn her to be more careful in the future. But soon, she thought about it again. Since Mr. Fool has seen through his identity as a believer in the stars, and still allows himself to participate in the tarot club, he may also want to get in touch with the stars through himself. Moreover, the Fool and the stars had just completed a transaction through him, so what did he have to fear? After all, I am the diplomatic ambassador sent by the stars to Mr. Fool. Thinking of this, 4C straightened her back again, raised her head slightly, and calmly faced Mr. Fool's gaze. Hey, Miss Magician's mood changes very quickly. What gave her this sudden confidence? Klein found it interesting, so he withdrew his gaze. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. George III wanted to be promoted to Sequence 0 Black Emperor on the day of the speech. This news shocked the Tarot Club members. Although they all knew that the end of the extraordinary path was blasphemy. But when they heard that someone wanted to become a god, they still couldn't hide their excitement and shock. More importantly, George III failed despite his thorough preparation. Why did George III fail to be promoted to Black Emperor? Audrey asked the question she wanted to know most. Because Mr. Fool disagreed. The world looked eager, and bowed in the direction of Mr. Fool to show respect. And the stars. Furs shouted in her heart, but she didn't dare to talk about the stars in front of Mr. Fool. Klein saw her thoughts and added lightly, in this matter, I have the same will as the stars. Stars. The stars organization that has been making a lot of noise in Backland recently. Mr. Fool actually knows this mysterious existence. And he quietly completed a cooperation with the other party. George III wanted to become a god, and the remaining 6 true gods had no objection, but chose to acquiesce, but Mr. Fool disagreed, and neither did the stars. So George III's path to promotion failed, and he fell. This was the most intuitive feeling in the hearts of Alger and others. After being shocked, Audrey couldn't help but think of Mr. Asta, who behaved a little abnormally that day. Could it be that Mr. Asta was a believer of the stars? She always felt that Mr. Asta was very mysterious. Maybe the stars organization that Backland had recently risen was also the one that Mr. Asta was behind. The more she thought about it, the more possible it seemed. If Mr. Asta was a believer of the stars, then she was a believer of the Fool, which meant that she was cooperating with Mr. Asta. Audrey raised the corner of her mouth slightly, glanced at the Tarot Club, and her eyes quietly fell on Miss Magician. She found that there was no shock in Miss Magician's eyes, but instead seemed to be hiding something that was afraid of being discovered by others. Did Miss Magician already know about George III in advance? Last time, she was the one who revealed the news about the death of the god of war. But Miss Magician doesn't look like a big shot. Suspicious, very suspicious, maybe I have seen her before. Audrey just looked at her silently with her peripheral vision, and did not disturb Miss Magician. After everyone's shock was hidden deep in her heart, she gave the world a reward for this news, 500 gold pounds. Originally, she wanted to give more, but recently she needed to buy extraordinary materials for Sequence 6 hypnotists, so she needed to use them sparingly. 500 gold pounds. Furs, pupils widened, and then he looked at the world with a complicated expression, and said nothing. Okay. Klein was very satisfied with this reward. Especially since this reward of 500 gold pounds came from Miss Magician's pocket, he felt very rewarded. Last time, gold pounds flew towards Miss Magician with wings, and now, they all flew back. Next, Audrey proposed the extraordinary materials she needed. Finally, Alger and the world took on this task. Derek also said that he would help find it, but he did not need gold pounds, so he allowed Audrey to owe it first. After solving her most important matter, Audrey threw out a topic as if nothing had happened. Which extraordinary person in the extraordinary path is better at predicting a person's future? Sequence 9 Fortune Teller. Alger took over the topic naturally. Then what level of extraordinary person can easily predict the ups and downs of a person's life? Audrey was very concerned about the prophecy coming from the Lowen royal family. It should be above Sequence 4 Demigod. Alger answered uncertainly. Derek added, Extraordinary people in the destiny path are also very good at seeing through the fate of others. I once heard the chief say that there is an extraordinary sequence called Prophet in the destiny path. I don't know the specific sequence. Audrey heard this and had a certain understanding in her heart. The person who secretly predicted her future must be in these two extraordinary paths. After everyone finished the transaction, Derek began to explain about their Silver City. Their last expedition had ended. After going back to rest, they were heading to Afternoon Town for another expedition. In a world without darkness, only the disordered lightning in the sky could bring a little light to this world. Even if this little light was insignificant to people living on the ground, it was one of the few lights of hope that could persist in their lives. Afternoon Town, located near the giant king's court, was dark and dangerous, and had swallowed up countless Silver City expedition members. Derek finished the tarot club this week, woke up from the campfire, and subconsciously clenched the hurricane axe in his hand. The heavy and cold touch relaxed Derek's nervous mood. Every time he attended the tarot club outside, he was always afraid that as soon as he woke up, the world in front of him would suddenly collapse like a dream, or be filled with endless darkness, and he could no longer see a little light. Derek held the handle of the hurricane axe with his right hand, and gently stroked the axe with his left hand, watching the clusters of flames burning in the campfire in front of him with his eyes absent-minded. The focus of his eyes was gradually gathering in the flames, and he finally came out of the shock he had received in the tarot club today. An existence that was capable of ascending to the status of a god fell under the will of Mr. Fool and the stars. The world outside was too scary. The strongest chief in Silver City, if placed outside, would probably not be considered a powerful extraordinary person. In addition to being shocked, he was curious about and admired the stars. How great it would be if the light of the stars also descended on Silver City. He really wanted to see what the brilliant starry sky looked like with his own eyes, instead of just imagining it by looking at the illustrations in the books. Puff! A slight sound came, followed by the sound of something being dragged. Derek woke up from his meditation, stood up, grasped the hurricane axe, and took a fighting stance with a vigilant face, looking at the direction of the sound just now. Something's going on. Be careful of the monsters hiding in the dark. Light. We need enough light. The anxious voices of the team members rang around, and just now another person was dragged away by the monster lurking in the dark. After a while, there was another rustling sound in the darkness. Derek listened to the direction and swung the hurricane axe in his hand towards that direction. Several lightning bolts flew out and illuminated that corner of the area. The dazzling lightning made the monsters hiding in the dark scream in fear, and then quickly retreated to a darker area. With this time, the chief demon hunter Colin also brought people here, and this place was temporarily safe. Demon hunter Colin swept the bloodstains still left by the campfire, and looked at the direction of the giant king's court with a serious expression. This was the afternoon town outside the giant king's court. The monsters in the dark here have begun to not fear the campfire. The deeper they go, the more dangerous it will be. But if they don't try, they will never find a way to leave this world, and they will not see the sea or the starry sky. He glanced at Derek, who was on guard, and then called everyone together, asking them to form teams to help each other as they had done before, in case the monsters in the dark come to attack again. Demon hunter Colin walked at the front of the team, emitting a bright and holy morning light, like the first ray of light falling on the earth when the sun rises, and the area here immediately became as bright as dawn. The monsters who were afraid of the morning light fled away one after another, and the dense number of them formed a black tide. Let's go, keep moving forward. Demon hunter Colin led Derek and others to go deeper with the morning light like a domain. Soon, they arrived near a half-collapsed church. This church originally had a high tower, and the whole used classical stone columns and masonry arches, which were heavy and dim. Passing through the dilapidated gate that could accommodate the giants, they came to the prayer hall. The statues originally enshrined here have been destroyed, and it is unclear which legendary god it is, but the candles on the altar are lit by someone unknown, and are shining alone. In front of the altar, there is a figure in a simple white robe. He is crawling on the ground and praying in a low voice. Not one of us. Look at the clothes he wears, he doesn't look like a resident near Silver City. Is it just an illusion like before? Or a monster in disguise? Want to take the opportunity to attack us? Let's be careful so as not to alarm him. The demon hunter Colin also looked particularly solemn. The more unusual things are here, the more likely they are to contain danger. Derek followed the team and looked at the figure in front of the altar. He always felt that the clothes on that person were very similar to what Mr. Hanged Man and Miss Justice described. In an environment like Silver City, there are no decent clothes. Unless it is a major sacrificial festival, you will never wear a conspicuous white robe. In the dark world, such clothes can easily attract the attention of monsters. This is equivalent to telling the monsters in the dark, "I am here, come and eat me." People who can survive in this world will never make such a low-level mistake. Could this person also come from the outside world? The candles on the altar were bright, and the cold wind blew from time to time, causing the flames to sway from side to side, but they were never extinguished. The monsters hidden in the darkness seemed to be in awe of something and did not dare to approach the area around the altar. Demon Hunter Colin made a solemn gesture, and the team moved forward in an arc-shaped semi-encircled formation. Although they tried to lower their footsteps and breath as much as possible, they were still noticed by the white-robed man kneeling in front of the altar. He did not stand up, but turned around and looked at Derek and others with suspicion and curiosity, but he was not panicked. This man is so handsome, just like the image of an angel on the mural. Someone lowered his voice and suddenly said something, which made everyone feel heavy. If the person in front of them was really an angel, then they would definitely not be able to escape this time. Just a mural left by the angel of fate Ouroboros could trap them, let alone a real angel. Who are you? The man looked at Derek and others who had stopped, and finally spoke. What was he saying just now? Why can't I understand this language? I don't understand it either. Is he really a visitor from the outside world? If that's the case, then don't we have hope of leaving here? In the team, several people looked at each other and whispered. Demon Hunter Colin frowned slightly. He didn't understand what the other party was saying. But there was still a flash of excitement in his eyes. Living visitors from the outside world are too rare. Everyone is a window for them to understand the outside world. At this moment, Derek was stunned in place. He could understand this language. At the Tarot Club, he had learned about the culture and language of the place where Mr. Hanged Man and Miss Justice were. What this person said just now was standard Loan language, which was very similar to what Miss Justice said. Derek subconsciously took 2 steps forward. Under the gaze of Demon Hunter Colin, he gestured with his hands and asked in the not-so-fluent Loan language, "Are you from Loan, Backland?" He did learn the common language from Miss Justice and Mr. Hanged Man, but he had no one to communicate with in Silver City, so he was not good at conversation. The man in the white robe had a strange color in his eyes. He stood up, causing the Silver City team to be on guard with weapons in hand. He glanced at Derek and others, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Are you a giant tribe living in the God-forsaken land? The language he spoke this time was the ancient giant language. Not only Derek understood it, but Demon Hunter Colin and others also understood this sentence. Can you speak our language? Derek said in a daze. The man said casually, anyone who aspires to go further in the mysterious world will learn the ancient giant language, the ancient Phasic language, and the Elven language. Mastering multiple mystical languages is the most basic ability for me. This fluent ancient giant language stunned Derek and others. Demon Hunter Colin suppressed his curiosity and various complex emotions, and asked anxiously and expectantly, did you really come in from outside? Yes, I followed the Lord's guidance. The man said, and turned around and bowed to the broken statue. Lord, do you also believe in the omniscient and omnipotent Creator? Demon Hunter Colin's tone was slightly trembling, as if he couldn't believe it. Of course, is there a second Lord? The man smiled and said, by the way, I haven't introduced myself yet. You can call me Mr. A. I am a devout believer of the Lord. The Lord has not abandoned us. He has not abandoned us. He has sent messengers to redeem us. When the people of Silver City heard what Mr. A said, their eyes were red and they sobbed softly. Some people even dropped their weapons tightly in their hands with a clang. Mr. A. Why is this name so familiar? Derek, who was also excited, searched carefully in his mind and finally remembered that he learned about the existence of Mr. A from Mr. Hanged Man. Mr. Hanged Man said that in their world there is an evil organization called Aurora Society. There are 22 messengers in this organization, and each messenger calls himself Mr. So-and-so. For example, Mr. A, Mr. Z, etc. The gods they believe in are the real creators, also known as the fallen creators. It is also the Lord, but it is definitely not the benevolent and omnipotent creator that they believe in Silver City. Thinking of this, Derek was a little panicked. He looked at the chief and wanted to tell him something about Mr. A, but he was afraid that saying it to his face would cause dissatisfaction and hostility from Mr. A, so he could only use his eyes to signal frantically. Demon Hunter Colin glanced at the anxious Derek, nodded, and signaled him to calm down first. Mr. A, how did you get here? I followed the guidance of the Lord. Lord, is he still here? Of course, the Lord has always existed. He has been watching here and watching every one of his believers. When Mr. A spoke, he had a kind smile on his face. He was wearing a white robe and standing in front of the altar. He seemed to be a messenger who came with God's will. Demon Hunter Colin was silent for a while before saying, "How can we believe what you say?" Mr. A just smiled and said, "I don't need to convince you. I came here just to trace the traces left by the Lord and go to the kingdom of God where he is." He glanced at everyone in Silver City again. "You should keep your guard up against the monsters in the dark. I have no intention of going with you. I still want to see the miracles left by the Lord." As he spoke, he knelt down and kowtowed to the broken statue on the altar. When he stood up again, he was ready to leave here and go to the more dangerous dark world. Seeing this, Demon Hunter Colin didn't care whether Mr. A really came with malicious intent. He asked him to stay here for a while and said that they hadn't met outsiders who could talk normally in Silver City for a long time. "Since you also believe in the Lord, I can try my best to help you answer your doubts." Mr. A accepted the invitation and lit another bonfire near the altar with them, and sat down to chat. Derek sat next to Demon Hunter Colin, and opposite them sat Mr. A with a calm and frank face. He was lowering his head slightly at this moment, carefully tidying up his white robe that was slightly stained with mud. After a moment of silence, Demon Hunter Colin began to ask Mr. A about the situation in the outside world. In the face of these inquiries, Mr. A patiently answered in detail and also popularized a lot of information about the outside world. But when asked how Mr. A appeared here, he always answered, "Everything is guided by the Lord." Mr. A did not describe where to come in and what method to use to come in. This disappointed the people in Silver City who wanted to explore the land of God's abandonment. Seeing that they could not get more valuable information by continuing to ask, Demon Hunter Colin asked others to continue to talk with Mr. A, and he quietly pulled Derek to a place where no one was. "Speak, in this case, I hope you don't hide anything anymore." Demon Hunter Colin stared at Derek seriously, as if he saw through all the little thoughts in his heart. Derek bowed his head and remained silent. After a while, he looked up and said, "Chief, I did hear people talk about this Mr. A and the Lord they believe in." Under the circumstances that he didn't know whether Mr. A would bring devastating damage to Silver City, Derek did not hide anything and told everything he knew about Mr. A and the real creator. "Lord, has he become a fallen evil god?" Demon Hunter Colin's face turned pale. This news was far more shocking than Mr. A was not a good person. "Chief, I am not sure whether the real creator is related to the Lord we believe in, but the Lord we believe in is kind, and the Lord Mr. A believes in is evil. This question should only be answered by Mr. Fool. In any case, his arrival is a good thing for our entire Silver City. At least, he has brought new hope to the lifeless Silver City." Demon Hunter Colin finished speaking earnestly, and asked Derek to bury what he had just told him in his heart, not to tell others, and even to think of a reason to cover up the words he had just said. When the two of them returned to the campfire, a group of people had gathered around Mr. A. Each of them was taller and stronger than Mr. A, making Mr. A look a little slender. Facing these lost believers who believed in the Lord devoutly, Mr. A began his sermon. As the people of Silver City said, he was indeed a messenger of God, an apostle of God who followed the Lord to the God-forsaken land. Perhaps the Lord kept him here so that he could help these poor believers who were about to lose their faith. As for the question of where the Lord was, he didn't know how to answer. After crossing the Golden Ocean, the Lord disappeared, along with the coffin he had been carrying. He woke up and found himself in a dilapidated church nearby. He searched around and found the statue of the Lord here. He lit a candle and prostrated himself to worship the Lord. At this time, the people of Silver City happened to arrive here. He thought that this might also be the Lord's arrangement. The Lord should want him to start from here, cross this dark area alone, and then reach the Lord's kingdom. This is his mission to set foot here. I will set out on the journey to find the Lord again. If you are willing, you can go with me and go to the Lord's kingdom together. Mr. A stood up and shouted loudly, and his words made many people in Silver City eager to move. But none of them expressed their opinions. Instead they turned their gazes towards the chief of Silver City, Demon Hunter Colin. The situation here is very complicated. If Mr. A is willing, can you go back to Silver City with us? Demon Hunter Colin glanced at Mr. A, who had nothing, and said, and the adventure journey also requires a certain amount of material preparation. In this dark and lightless world, it is very difficult to get food in the wild. Mr. A was tempted, but he had no intention of going to Silver City. He just wanted to follow the traces left by the Lord and go to the kingdom of the Lord. If he hadn't met someone from Silver City here, he would have embarked on a journey to seek holiness. As for the monsters in the dark, he had the breath of the Lord on him, and the monsters here didn't dare to approach him casually. Demon Hunter Colin continued to add, "We in Silver City have been devout believers in the Lord for generations. You came here in accordance with the Lord's will. This is a kind of salvation for us. I believe that the Lord arranged for you to come here so that you can help us get rid of this dark and hopeless day. We really need the light from the outside world." The earnest words and red eyes made Demon Hunter Colin's words very credible and inciting. Many people in Silver City have begun to sob quietly, and they stare at Mr. A with hopeful eyes. Light and redemption, this is the miracle that Silver City has been waiting for. Derek looked at this scene, and his eyes were wet. Silver City's perseverance and hope in the long years have been too long and too tiring. Lord, do you want me to bring them light? Mr. A murmured, and finally agreed to go to Silver City. Demon Hunter Colin immediately ordered to leave Afternoon Town and return to Silver City. Mr. A was protected in the center like a moon surrounded by stars. What is strange is that they did not encounter any attacks from dark monsters on their return trip. This made many people in Silver City who witnessed this journey think that Mr. A was the messenger sent by God. Derek, who watched all this development silently, was organizing his words in his mind, waiting to go back and seek help from Mr. Fool. The reputation of the true creator and the Aurora Society is not good at all. The arrival of Mr. A may push Silver City into the abyss. The Sea of Ruins, the Golden Ocean is shining brightly. Even if you just look at it from a distance, you can feel a shock from the depths of your soul. On the future, Catalia stood at the bow and looked at the ruins covered by the Golden Ocean, with a complicated expression. Along the way, she had always let the future follow Mr. A's boat, but just yesterday, the boat driven by Mr. A suddenly disappeared from her sight, as if it passed through an invisible portal and arrived at a new world. And they were abandoned in the same place, without the chance to enter that new world. Thinking about what Mr. A said along the way, perhaps he really arrived at the kingdom of God of the real creator under the guidance of the Lord. The person who regretted the most was Heath Doyle, the second mate of the future. He had been kneeling on the bow, facing the direction of the Sea of Ruins, and crawling all day. Before, Mr. A had invited him to embark on a journey to pursue the Lord, but he refused. And yesterday, he witnessed with his own eyes how Mr. A, under the guidance of the Lord, passed through an insurmountable portal and went to an unknown world. He firmly believed that Mr. A had arrived at the kingdom of the Lord. Alas! Catalia looked at Frank, who was obsessed with studying the pea shooter, and sighed heavily. One was stupid, and the other was crazy, which made her, the captain, feel more pressured. She glanced at the Sea of Ruins that had been left behind by the future again, and returned to her captain's room to rest for a while. As soon as she stepped into the door of the captain's room, her body suddenly stiffened, and her eyes burst into joy. but soon, she suppressed this happiness from her heart, walked into the captain's room with a stern face, and then closed the door to avoid being disturbed. Her eyes looked at the familiar figure sitting at the desk where she usually read. The person who had been looking forward to meeting appeared in front of her without any signs. Just as suddenly as when she was driven away. She didn't speak, but just stared at him from a distance. Her eyes began to turn red inadvertently, and her happy mood turned into sourness and confusion. "Don't you welcome me?" Bernadette, who was sitting at the desk, closed the book and put it on the table, then turned around and looked at Catalia with a complicated look. "I just didn't expect you to come to see me suddenly." Catalia took 2 steps forward, wanting to throw herself into her arms, but she stopped the impulse. She knew that the person in front of her didn't like her, who was too childish. Bernadette smiled and said, "I plan to go back to Intis in a while." "You shouldn't have been back for a long time, right?" Although the voice was not as gentle as she expected, Catalia's eyes were red unconsciously and she choked a little, but she still raised her chin slightly. "I can go back with you." "Yeah." Bernadette just nodded lightly, but Catalia couldn't help but want to raise the corners of her mouth. In order not to laugh out loud because of joy, she could only try to suppress the joy and excitement in her heart. With a stern face, standing silently aside. In Silver City, Derek finally found an opportunity to go home alone to rest. After closing the doors and windows of his house, Derek began to call out the honorific name of Mr. Fool. As a mist spread above his head, a tall and unattainable figure sat on the familiar bronze table. "What's the matter?" "Mr. Fool, Mr. A has come to Silver City." Derek hurriedly reported to Mr. Fool everything that happened after he met Mr. A. Above the gray fog, Klein was a little confused. How could Mr. A run to the God-forsaken land? Could it be that the true creator guided him there? But didn't the Aurora Club spread the news that Mr. A was listed as a traitor of the Aurora Club and sent another messenger to take over Backland's affairs? At the time, Mr. A's defection caused quite a stir in the mysterious world. After all, the members of the Aurora Club are notoriously crazy, believing in the true creator like mad dogs. It is hard to imagine that they would betray the true creator's faith. "Mr. Fool, I'm worried that the true creator may take action against Silver City. What can I do to help Silver City?" Derek's still slightly immature face was full of worry. Previously, there was an elder named Luvia in the Shepherd sequence in Silver City who was suspected of being infected by the true creator, and now there is another god envoy, Mr. A. If all this was arranged by the true creator, then Silver City would definitely be destroyed. Klein, who was separated by the gray fog, was silent. If it was really the work of the true creator, he had no ability to stop the other party. He was a crazy evil god. It was definitely more terrifying than the existing 6 true gods. In this case, Silver City can only rely on itself to save itself. But he certainly couldn't tell Little Sun directly about this, and it would also damage Mr. Fool's tall image. Wait and see. Klein finally gave Derek such a suggestion, because he really couldn't think of a way to stop the true creator. If Silver City wants to survive, it can only depend on whether the chief of Silver City has enough wisdom to deal with the crisis. "Mr. Fool, do you mean that this matter will have other turns, so let me wait and see and wait for the opportunity?" Derek's eyes were particularly bright, as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. Klein did not speak again. "Very good, Little Sun, you have also learned Mr. Hanged Man's self-interpretation and self-hypnosis." When Derek walked out of the room again, he felt much more relaxed than before. With Mr. Fool's words, he felt confident. After all, Mr. Fool had never made a mistake. When Derek walked towards the central square of Silver City, he heard someone shouting that Elder Luvia was coming. His face changed instantly. Elder Luvia must have come for this Mr. A. Once the two of them met, they would definitely form a united front immediately. But what Derek did not expect was that Elder Luvia was very unwelcome to Mr. A's appearance, and even thought that the other party would destroy Silver City. If the chief and others were not present, Elder Luvia might not be able to control herself and attack Mr. A. Faced with this sudden hostility, Mr. A was stunned for a moment, then sneered, "You betrayed the Lord's faith." "I have never betrayed my faith." Elder Luvia also sneered. No wonder the Lord has never blessed you. Those who betray their faith are destined to live in eternal darkness and suffer torture, and finally die in pain. Haha, betray your faith. If the Lord's eyes were really fixed on this place, Silver City would not be what it is today. Elder Lovia's tone was full of sarcasm. These two people, as soon as they met, were like a tit for tat, which shocked everyone around them. Even the demon hunter Colin could not tell whether Mr. A and Elder Lovia hated each other or had a tacit understanding to act in front of him. Derek looked even more confused, and couldn't help but think of what Mr. Fool had just said. Could it be that Mr. Fool had seen this scene in advance, so he let him wait and see? In a wilderness, the sky occasionally flashes with lightning, occasionally illuminating the entire wilderness. On a dark green stone, 3 figures are sitting. They are concentrating on shuffling a deck of cards, then dividing them into 3 parts and starting the common game of fighting evil. On the other side of the dark green stone, 2 figures are looking at the lightning flashing in the sky, as if debating how many times a year there will be lightning in the God-forsaken land. On the other side, a figure is squatting on the grass, picking up a branch in his hand, and is seriously teasing the ants crawling through the grass. Sometimes he gets too playful and deliberately messes up the neat formation of the ants, with a very happy expression on his face. There is also a figure sitting on the grass, carefully wiping the glasses he just took off with a silky and neat light-colored glasses cloth, a pair of monocles. There is also a figure dressed as an adventurer, standing on a stone and looking at the scenery in the distance, looking very ambitious, as if he will turn into a goshawk and fly out for adventure in the next moment. There was also an unlucky guy who was tied to the fire rack because he said something wrong. Someone nearby was picking up branches and wanted to make a fire to roast this unlucky guy into a roasted suckling pig. The large number of figures brought a lot of excitement to the silent wilderness. The only thing that made people feel scared was that the facial features of these figures were exactly the same, as if they were carved from the same mold. Suddenly, a golden light bloomed in the distance, as if a golden door was opened in the dark world. In the wilderness, all the figures looked in that direction at the same time. They all wore a pair of monocles, even the style and color were the same. Someone has come to the God-forsaken land. The figure standing high and looking out spoke very seriously. Who's coming? Can anyone else come in safely? It's really strange. I suddenly want to go and play with him. It's probably another crazy believer of the true creator. His believers are always so desperate and stupid. It's rare to have new people come in. This should be a good thing. Don't you think there are more interesting things during this period? The complicated discussions soon made the silent wilderness lively again. Finally, they reached an agreement with each other and decided to send 3 lucky people to investigate this matter by drawing cards. In such matters, they have always been fair, and most of the time the minority obeys the majority. Of course, occasionally, there will be a veto. As long as one person disagrees, it will be overturned and started again until everyone agrees. This method is very time-consuming. Sometimes it takes a month to vote just to decide whether to go out and play tomorrow. Compared with going out to play casually, they prefer to spend time on trivial matters such as voting. After all, this is in line with democracy. As for whether it will affect or delay something, it is not within their consideration. Soon, 3 lucky people were successfully selected. One was an adventurer, one was a bard, and the other was a silent person who liked to stand still and stare blankly. The adventurer's body turned into a goshawk, soaring into the sky, flapping his wings, and quickly flew away. The bard looked into the distance and turned into a galloping horse. The silent person was silent for a while, quickly climbed onto the horse's back and sat down, and then rode away on the horse in the reluctant struggle. The rest of the people raised their hands and waved enthusiastically, singing songs, playing instruments and cheering for their departure. After the 3 of them left, a unique party began in the wilderness. Silver City was also holding a party, a welcome party for Mr. A. Derek sat aside and looked at Mr. A, who was surrounded in the middle and was constantly answering questions about the outside world for the residents of Silver City, and then looked at Elder Lovia, who was always highly alert to Mr. A. The vigilance and disgust in his eyes should not be acted. Elder Lovia really hates this outsider Mr. A. Aren't they all believers of the real creator? Derek couldn't figure it out, so he could only keep silent. During this period of time, he asked Mr. Fool to let him communicate with Mr. Hanged Man. In the end, Mr. Hanged Man, who has always been trustworthy, also gave similar advice to Mr. Fool, to wait and see, not to be impulsive, and leave everything to the chief. Will the merciful Lord grant hope to our Silver City? As long as you have always believed in the Lord devoutly, then the Lord will definitely respond to your expectations. Mr. A spoke very naturally. He has answered this question dozens of times. Every Silver City resident who talked to him would ask similar questions. They longed for hope and salvation, hoping to leave this world one day. Unfortunately, he really didn't know which road he had taken to get here. The Lord had guided him all the way. Without the Lord, he didn't know the direction to go. Just like now, he didn't know whether he should stay in Silver City or continue his journey. After the party, when Mr. A and Elder Lovia passed by each other, he only heard the other party whispering, "Don't let your dirty faith affect Silver City. Believers who abandon their faith are not qualified to preach to me." Mr. A just replied calmly. He was sure that Elder Lovia must have prayed to the Lord, but her heart was not on the Lord's side, but in Silver City. In this dark and dim world, a hawk that had traveled a long distance flew from afar and landed on a statue in the central square of the Silver City. His eyes were looking down at this city that had not yet been swallowed by darkness with interest. The last time he came here, he met the followers of the Fool here. Now, people from the outside world have come here again. This is really a good place. Should it be destroyed, or let it stay? The hawk tilted his head slightly and began to think, then looked at the lightning flashing in the sky from time to time. He suddenly had a good idea, and bet on whether the number of lightning flashing in the sky in 10 breaths is odd or even. If the final number is odd, then destroy this Silver City that should have dissipated long ago. If it is even, then he will continue to leave it alone. Raising his head, he began to count seriously, and 10 breaths passed quickly, and he got the result he wanted, 124 times, an even number. What good luck! He regretfully withdrew his gaze, thinking whether he should count again, this time for a longer time, and bet within 100 breaths. But he didn't do it in the end, because his eyes were attracted. He saw the outsider, the conspicuous and disgusting aura on his body. He was a believer of the real Creator. This made his originally good mood shrouded in a haze. He hated this real Creator and didn't want to acknowledge his existence. Should he kill him directly? Or keep him to play a game first? The eyes of the goshawk on the statue showed human thinking, and then he looked up at the sky again. It happened that this time he could count 100 breaths. Lightning flashed one after another, and the dazzling thunder was one of the few strong colors in this world. 100 breaths ended, and this time it was also an even number. This made him summarize a rule: lightning in the sky always appears in pairs. He was in a good mood, looking at Mr. A, who was meditating in the room. Just looking at him, the dust in the air, the grass debris flying by occasionally, the ants crawling over the window, and the mice looking for food seemed to come alive for a moment. What a terrible feeling! Mr. A, who was still thinking about what to do next, had a crazy spiritual warning in his mind. He stood up and shuddered for no reason, almost tripping over the chair. He looked around with a vigilant look, looking carefully at the empty surroundings. For some reason, he suddenly felt that countless eyes were staring at him in the dark. The inexplicable chill made him feel a huge panic. At this time, big black rats slipped out from every corner of the room. They should have been afraid of people, but now they stood up on their hind legs, staring at him with a pair of scarlet eyes with condescending scrutiny. Not only mice but also various small things hiding in the room crawled out, such as spiders, small snakes, wriggling larvae, and moths flapping their wings. They appeared in front of him without fear, staring at him with a pair of scrutinizing eyes. Mr. A had goosebumps all over his body, and even small balls of flesh protruded on his arms, and then cracked, growing red eyeballs the size of fingertips, looking back at the scrutinizing eyes from all directions with vigilance and fear. Perhaps they found it interesting, and the small animals around Mr. A smiled. Mr. A was stunned for a second, and then his body turned into a pool of black tide and rushed to the window, trying to escape from here. To his surprise, the strange mice, spiders, moths, etc. in the room did not chase him out. But before Mr. A could breathe a sigh of relief, pairs of eyes grew around him, surrounding him with teasing eyes. He was like a prey caught in a trap, with nowhere to escape. Mr. A knew that a very difficult enemy must have come in secret. Derek was about to take a rest in the room when he was suddenly awakened by Mr. Fool's voice transmission. "Amen is here." This sentence was like a spell, scaring Derek so much that he lost all sleepiness and his face turned pale instantly. Above the gray fog, Klein used Derek as a window, and through the authority of Saphira Castle, he could clearly see the situation inside the Silver City. Originally, he was going to see if Mr. A had any means left by the real creator, so that he could remind Little Sun and let him pay attention to the danger. Unexpectedly, when he looked, the entire Silver City was centered on the goshawk standing on the sculpture in the central square, and was densely packed with Amon's clones around it. From small air dust to large larvae, moths, spiders, mice and other creatures, they did not look abnormal on the surface, but in his eyes, these creatures were just miniature versions of Amen. He couldn't help but think of Will's warning to him when he asked Will. When one Amen appeared, there must be a lot of Amen hiding in the dark. Using a clone as the center, constantly turning all creatures into Amens is a common method used by Amen. Now, Amen is using this method to target Mr. A, or to be more precise, he is playing with Mr. A for fun. Although he had no good feelings towards Mr. A, the person Amen wanted to deal with was his ally. Maybe when Mr. A was in danger, he could attract the real creator to check and balance Amen. So he told Little Sun the news of Amon's arrival in Silver City in a seemingly relaxed and teasing tone. Amen actually came to Silver City again. Derek was panicking. He still remembered the terrible scene of being entangled by Amen last time. If it weren't for Mr. Fool's help, he would have become Amon's puppet long ago. Now, he appeared again, and from Mr. Fool's tone, Amen was attacking Silver City at this moment. "No, I want to inform the chief about this as soon as possible." "Mr. Fool, thank you for your reminder." After thanking Mr. Fool, Derek hurriedly pushed the door open and walked out. Just a few steps out, he heard the bell responsible for the city's alert ringing. The chief and the others have found Amen. Derek breathed a sigh of relief, quickly grasped his weapon, and followed the other fighters to the gathering place. In the central square, the eagle standing on the sculpture just quietly watched the chaos in the Silver City. He originally wanted to make the whole Silver City move by playing tricks on Mr. A. Aren't they expecting the real creator to save them and give them light and hope? Today, he will show them how ugly the real creator is in front of them. Let's start with this believer of the real creator. Amen didn't have the patience to play any cat and mouse games anymore. But just when he was about to force Mr. A to pray to the real creator, Mr. A had already knelt on the ground and asked for help from the Lord in his heart. Unfortunately, the real creator did not respond to his prayers. He just looked at him from a distance, then retracted his gaze and ignored his prayers. Mr. A could only ask for help from another Lord, full of bitterness. He believed that it was his impious faith that made the real Lord abandon him. In the past, he dared to say that he believed in the Lord wholeheartedly, but now, his faith has gradually tilted, even if it is only a small arc, which makes this faith no longer pure. "Don't want to show up?" Amen also sensed the real creator's distant glance. Seeing that the real creator was unwilling to show up, a hint of sarcasm appeared at the corner of his mouth, and the hatred in his eyes deepened. Amen, who turned into a goshawk, slowly took out a pair of monocles and hung them on his right eye. This scene was also seen by the demon hunter Colin, allowing him to recognize who was the Amen tonight at once. At this time, Derek came anxiously to Chief Colin and reminded him in a low voice, "Chief, Amen is here. Prepare to seek help from the existence behind you. We can't stop the real Amen." Colin looked worried. If Amon's real body came here, even if all the people in the entire Silver City were added together, they would not be the opponent of the other party. The gap in strength and status between each other is too big. "Chief, you don't need to explain anything. As long as you can protect Silver City, everything is worth it." Colin looked at Derek kindly, and then stopped Elder Lovia from taking action at this time. Their actions had no other effect except to anger Amen. Now it depends on whether the Lord that Mr. A believes in devoutly will appear to save his devout believers. He, like Mr. A, is looking forward to the coming of the Lord. Unfortunately, the real Creator did not come, but the stars are coming. The dark sky that was torn into strips by lightning, at this moment, in addition to the light shot out by lightning, there is another kind of light. The light of the stars, with starlight that does not belong to the forsaken land of God, are particularly eye-catching in the dark and lightless world. The starlight, which has not been seen for many years, once again shrouds the sky of the forsaken land of God. The gentle light is not as violent as lightning. The twinkling stars are blinking, just like the lovely description of the starry sky in the book. The residents of Silver City forgot that Amen was here for a moment, and just looked up at the starry sky, tears streaming down their eyes. When Silver City lost the sun, the stars also disappeared. Now the light of the stars is covering Silver City again. Does this mean that the sun will appear again? Derek also looked up, but he still had a little bit of rationality. He kept calling out to Mr. Fool in his heart. In the last tarot meeting, Mr. Fool said that not allowing George III to become a god was the common will of him and the stars. Now, the light of the stars fell on Silver City. Is it related to Mr. Fool? Above the gray fog, Klein, who had not left yet, also saw the scene of the starry sky descending on the God-forsaken land through Derek. He knew that for the residents of Silver City, the light of the stars was a guide and hope. What kind of existence is the starry sky? Klein murmured. Although he and Bernadette, a believer in the starry sky, had cooperated to deal with George III, he did not know much about the existence of the starry sky. He just vaguely felt that the other party was not the evil god who acted evil and cruel like the real creator and the original witch. It was more like a powerful and mysterious existence different from the other lawful camps of the six gods today. What he didn't expect was that Mr. A also became a believer of the starry sky. No wonder Aurora ordered a warrant for his arrest. For the true creator, this was a loud slap in the face. His own messenger became a believer of the stars. As the starry sky suddenly appeared, Mr. A, who was kneeling on the ground praying, was filled with the light of the stars. At this moment, his faith in the true Creator was further shaken. He was terrified and crawled on the ground, not daring to look up. Seeing this scene, Amen raised a happy arc at the corner of his mouth. The stars actually snatched away the believers of the true Creator. This is really an interesting thing. He laughed happily, then took back all his clones, and in the shape of a goshawk, with his right wing pressed against his chest, facing the starry sky, and bowed to the curtain call. The stars have already arrived, and they have snatched away the believers of the true Creator. There is no need for him to stay here. If the existence that came was the fool, he might stay to fight the fool, but facing the stars, he did not have such an idea. Although he stayed in the God-forsaken land for a long time, the sudden death of the god of war still attracted his attention, and he also knew the existence of the stars. For the mysterious stars, he had no intention of provoking them for no reason. Just when Amen was about to flap his wings and fly away. Boom! A beam of skyfire fell towards where Amen was. This made Amon's eyes condense slightly, and he actually sensed a breath similar to the eternal scorching sun from this ball of skyfire. He wanted to escape from here and let Silver City bear the power of this skyfire instead of himself. But the surrounding space suddenly changed, and he and other clones far away from here were pulled into the air and sealed in a spaceball. The space compressed and exploded, and then faced the baptism of skyfire again. All these clones were destroyed, leaving only 12-time insects in the air. The brilliant fireworks bloomed, making the residents of Silver City dazzled. From the appearance of the stars to Amon's departure, and then to Amon's explosion, these things happened in a short period of time. Derek was stunned, and Klein fell silent. Finally, he could only sigh. The power of the stars is really terrible. Amen exploded, and the stars in the sky also dispersed. The God-forsaken land, which was originally shrouded by the light of the stars, was once again dominated by lightning. Many residents of Silver City have learned Mr. A's posture and prostrated themselves on the ground. The miracle that Silver City has been waiting for has finally appeared today. Mr. A is the real messenger of God, As the chief of Silver City, Colin's heart was full of complex and unspeakable emotions. Finally, he bent down and bowed deeply in the direction where the stars were scattered. In the Hall of Stars, Hasta sat in the first seat. His eyes moved away from the light spot where Mr. A was, and looked at the Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Overlord, the Lamp God, and the high-dimensional Overlooker sitting on his left and right. Tonight, Amon's luck was very bad. When Mr. A asked him for help, he was holding a star meeting every 2 months. Continue. Hasta spoke calmly, signaling the jinn to continue the topic about the fallen Mother Goddess. The jinn was silent, and for a moment he didn't know how to answer the question. The meeting of the stars was going well just now, but suddenly someone asked the stars for help. The stars revealed the world that person was in before their eyes, and the place abandoned by gods had a certain degree of attraction even for them. That was the place where the ancient sun god fell. This powerful being finally fell because God awakened in his body. This alone can attract them to take a closer look, and perhaps they can gain insight into some of God's secrets. It's a pity that there is a short-sighted guy who dares to challenge the majesty of the stars. There is no need for the stars to take action. The Superstar Master and the high-dimensional Overlooker can easily solve the trouble and get everything back on track despite the long distance. At this time, he belatedly discovered that the unlucky guy who provoked the stars turned out to be Amon, the naughty child of the ancient sun god. The authority in that man is a bit interesting. The high-dimensional Overlooker seemed to see similarities with himself in Amon. The jinn explained his doubts. He is one of the 2 children of the ancient sun god. He is a brother to Adam. He is called the Angel of Time Amon. His extraordinary path is the thief. The second son of the ancient sun god, the brother of Adam. I am more interested in him. The high-dimensional Overlooker said in a pleasant tone. His brother Adam is not simple. I hope he can also give me a different surprise. Hearing this, Hasta pretended to be calm and said, You and him do have many similarities. Stars, can you let me enter the land abandoned by the gods? Dimensional Overlooker thought for a moment and then smiled. This is a deal, and I will pay the corresponding reward. What Hasta was waiting for was the words of the high-dimensional Overlooker. He had long been looking forward to what exciting sparks would arise when the high-dimensional Overlooker and Amon met. Now is a great opportunity for the high-dimensional Overlooker to entangle Amon. Moreover, there are high-dimensional Overlookers in the land abandoned by the gods, and the safety of the star container and Mr. A is more guaranteed. Speaking of which, he had to thank Amon for showing up tonight. Not only did he get 12 worms of time for free, but he also got the corresponding reward of a high-dimensional Overlooker. In fact, with the ability of a high-dimensional Overlooker, as long as he knows the place, he can easily enter the land abandoned by the gods. But they default to it as their own back garden, so when they want to visit, they consciously learn to buy tickets. Okay. Hasta calmly agreed to the deal. The Superstar Lord also has some intentions. He is also very concerned about the traces left by God, but his current clone is still recovering in the Republic of Intis and cannot go out in a short time. The Mother Tree of Desire has the same idea, but it doesn't even have a free walking clone, only Sia, a believer who has always failed. He even thought about asking the stars to help him change the bad luck of the evil god Sia. After the small interlude, the jinn returned to his previous guiding posture and began to tell some things about the fallen Mother Goddess. It's no secret that the stars and the fallen Mother Goddess are no match for each other, and that their followers have fought many times. The Mother Tree of Desire is the most active. When it comes to dealing with the fallen Mother Goddess, she and the stars are on the same front. After the jinn finished telling the information about the fallen Mother Goddess, the Desire Mother Tree added a few more points. Finally, it was mentioned that there are 3 main ways for the fallen Mother Goddess to influence the real world. The first is that through his own personality, he can exert influence on the Crimson Moon, thus affecting the 2 extraordinary paths he once lost in the real world. The second is through Mr. Door. Mr. Door possesses uniqueness and 3 copies of Sequence 1 extraordinary characteristics. He is only 1 step away from becoming a god. After being contaminated by the fallen Mother Goddess, his extraordinary path was also influenced and interfered by the fallen Mother Goddess. The third one is Russell, who is on the path of the Black Emperor. When Russell came to the starry sky and was taken advantage of by the fallen Mother Goddess, they all saw it. If you want to cut off the tentacles of the fallen Mother Goddess extending into the real world, Russell is a very good breakthrough point. The Mother Tree of Desire gave her own advice. In their view, the stars conquered Bernadette just to target Russell. The Superstar Lord spoke in a deep voice. If you want to remove the pollution from Russell's body, the authority of the eternal blazing sun is a good choice. The fallen Mother Goddess is a combination of feminine forces. If you want to target her, the authority of the eternal blazing sun is indeed suitable. High-dimensional overlookers also agree with this sentence. It's just that the person of the eternal burning sun alone is not enough to defeat the fallen Mother Goddess. God poses a threat. His eyes looked at Hasta, and the meaning was self-evident. It takes a higher-level existence to control part of the power of the eternal blazing sun in order to remove the pollution from Russell's body. The Superstar Master did not speak. If he came to the real world in his true form, he could also cleanse the pollution in Russell's body. After all, the fallen Mother Goddess was far away in the starry sky, and the degree of pollution she had caused to Russell was limited. Otherwise she would not have been able to survive for so many years. Russell's last mausoleum is very secretive. Even I don't know where he is really hiding, because at that time I had already protected Bernadette. The genie's tone was very tactful, and he described Russell's instructions to Bernadette on how to use it to defend herself, as escorting Bernadette. Hasta just listened quietly and did not rush to say anything. With his current ability, even with the help of the Star Hall, he could not completely remove the pollution in Russell's body, and the fallen Mother Goddess might take the opportunity to invade the Star Hall. Before he was promoted to a Sequence 2 angel, he would not really meet Russell. However, it was still possible to create some trouble for the fallen Mother Goddess through Russell. With the help of the ability of the Star Hall, he could use part of the authority of the Eternal Sun to help Russell stabilize his state and reduce the pollution from the fallen Mother Goddess. However, during this period, Russell seemed to have taken away the uniqueness of the Black Emperor's path and a Sequence 1 Beander characteristic, and he did not want to contact Russell at this time. What do you think of them? After listening to their description, Hasta reached out and tapped the starry sky. 2 stars flashing with light, and the internal situation appeared in the Star Hall. It was the original hunger and the unquenchable muttering. The stars want to add new members to the Star Conference? The tone of the lamp god was a little unexpected. There was no need for the stars to let them know about this kind of thing. Didn't the stars make their own choices in the past? This time the choice is in your hands. Hasta leaned back slightly on the chair, looking calm, with absolute confidence in his tone. Recently, the Superstar Lord and the High Dimension Overlooker have helped him a lot, and the Star Conference has gradually generated a certain centripetal force. So he doesn't mind letting them choose the next Outer God Old Day to attend the Star Conference. This is a kind of trust and a friendly gesture. Sure enough, the Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Lord, and the High Dimension Overlooker all became very happy. The happy lamp god even transformed 2 golden arms to embrace his chest, raised his chin slightly, and began to comment on the original hunger and the unquenchable whispers. Original hunger likes to swallow planets rich in life resources into its stomach. This starry sky has not yet produced a second suitable life planet, and he is at least half of the credit. He is usually kind, but this is on the premise that he is full. If he is extremely hungry, he will dare to take a bite even if the fallen Mother God passes by nearby. His authority is not powerful, but he is very tough and resistant to beatings. Well, he is very resistant from the inside out. It is not difficult to suppress him, but it is difficult to kill him. The lamp god introduced the information about the original hunger while observing the reactions of other beings. Seeing that they all signaled him to continue. His tone became higher, with a hint of joy, the unextinguished whisper. This guy is more like a mental patient, he is often in a state of confusion, and makes unpleasant whispers. My advice is to stay away from him, so as not to be affected. Unless the stars want to install a loudspeaker here that will make a harsh noise anytime and anywhere. Compared to the two, the original hunger is better, I vote for him. After the lamp god finished speaking, he looked at the Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Master, and the High Dimensional Overlooker, indicating that they should make a choice. The Mother Tree of Desire and the Superstar Master also voted for the original Hunger. Only the high-dimensional Overlooker voted for the Unextinguished Whisper. When the Lamp God asked him why he chose the Unextinguished Whisper, he smiled and replied, "Well, I just don't want your proposal to be passed unanimously." The corners of the Lamp God's mouth twitched twice, and he had to admit that the high-dimensional Overlooker was very good at disgusting him. He really wanted to achieve a unanimous vote, so he carefully analyzed the advantages and disadvantages between Primordial Hunger and Unquenchable Whisper, and chose Primordial Hunger first. Tisk, it's really interesting. The high-dimensional Overlooker had a smile in his eyes. He admired the suppressed anger of the Lamp God. In the end, the Lamp God just snorted coldly and ignored the provocation of the high-dimensional Overlooker. Hastur also recognized their choice this time, but this star meeting has ended, and he will wait until next time to summon Primordial Hunger to the Star Hall. Of course, before that, he will meet Primordial Hunger alone. Silver City. The residents of Silver City, who witnessed the light of the stars, prepared to hold a grand sacrifice in a few days under the leadership of Chief Colin. The objects of the sacrifice are the Lord they have always believed in, and the stars that have shown miracles and brought light and hope to the God-forsaken land. The only shortcoming is that they don't know how to build statues for the stars. When asked Mr. A couldn't give an accurate answer. In this regard, Silver City can only refer to the stars as a sky full of stars. Mr. A made a lot of suggestions on the side to prevent them from confusing the stars with the goddess of night. If the sacrifice is to the goddess of night, it would be a great disrespect to the stars. This kind of sacrifice may be fine if you don't sacrifice, but if you sacrifice to the wrong god, it will definitely bring divine punishment. If you don't believe it, you can call the name of the Lord of Storms to help you, and prepare the sacrifices that the God of Knowledge and Wisdom likes. Try choosing the place of sacrifice at the entrance of the Eternal Sun Church. But Lord God's envoy, even you don't know how to offer sacrifices to the stars? Someone asked Mr. A this question, and he was stunned for a moment. He should have been the most devout believer of the true Creator. Now, how could he help participate in the star sacrifice? When Mr. A was going back to his room to rest with mixed feelings, he met Elder Lovia again on the way. "Haha, I'm not the only one who has abandoned my faith." The sneer and ruthless mocking words exposed the scars on Mr. A's heart that had not yet healed. This time, he did not argue with Elder Lovia again, but returned to his room in a daze to rest. Lovia raised her eyebrows slightly, watching the thin back of Mr. A leaving. On the other side, little son Derek was also hiding in his home, closing the doors and windows, praying devoutly to Mr. Fool, thanking Mr. Fool for his guidance. Above the gray fog, Klein had a complicated expression. In this matter, he did not play any role. Amon's clones were also solved by the stars. He was just a simple spectator. Well, let's not think about these issues for now. It's more practical to divine the whereabouts of a few more pirates so that we can earn enough gold coins to return to the messenger lady as soon as possible. Klein suppressed other thoughts and began to use the power of gray fog to divine. Recently, because he has been hunting pirates with high bounties, many pirates on the bounty list who are not very strong are panicking and looking for places to hide. This forced him to use divination to find their whereabouts. There was no lightning in the silent wilderness, and everything was dark. Eamon had taken back all the nearby clones to avoid being targeted by the stars. At this moment, he was sitting on the soft grass, staring at the dark sky, muttering the name of the stars. He had never offended the other party, but the other party seemed to have been hostile to him for a long time, so when he appeared in response to Mr. A's prayer, he immediately targeted him. Fortunately, it was only his clone that appeared in the Silver City at that time. Even if it was destroyed, it would not cause much damage to his original body. He thought seriously for a while, and he really didn't remember where he had offended the stars. Judging from the other party's status and authority, it should not be his old friends. Just as Eamon was thinking, a ship was coming alone through the turbulent waves on the Sea of Ruins in the Golden Ocean. On the future, Catalya received a report from the crew and reluctantly left the VIP room where Bernadette lived. When she saw that on the ship, there was only a young figure standing quietly at the bow, with a handsome appearance, looking a bit like Mr. A at the beginning. Before Catalya sent someone to the ship to inquire about the news, the figure who was originally standing at the bow suddenly disappeared from sight. Obviously, she didn't even blink her eyes just now, but the other party just disappeared in the same place. Catalya took a breath of cold air, her scalp tingling, and immediately realized that this was another troublesome person. She could only order the crew at the helm to drive the future away from the ship to avoid conflict with the other party. After finishing her chores, she returned to Bernadette's room, but she couldn't open the door. Standing outside the door, she could vaguely sense that there was a strange atmosphere inside compared to when she just left. Could it be the young figure just now? Catalya stood guard at the door, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. This era is so terrible, and there are always mysterious people appearing. Panine Port. Asta, who has arranged the next things, can finally relax for a while. Because he wanted to go to the Republic of Intis for a while, he took a lot of time to arrange the next things to do. With Keys's loyal execution and Mrs. Lisa sitting here, he was not worried about any accidents. Dong dong dong. Asta, who had just closed his eyes to rest, frowned slightly and said, "Come in." The door opened and Keys walked in. He bowed respectfully first, then whispered, "My Lord Earl, the matter has been settled. Prince Leonard must rest at home for at least a month before he can recover. Well, don't move too much, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble. Everything is done according to the orders of my Lord Earl." Keys explained in detail how he targeted Prince Leonard. To sum it up, it can be summed up in 4 words: not acclimatized. After all, he is a member of the royal family who has lived in Backland for many years. It is reasonable for him to not acclimatize to such a remote area as South Wales County when he leaves Backland for the first time. It is reasonable for him to have a stomachache after eating, right? It is also reasonable for him to have nightmares and feel tired when sleeping, right? He will leave South Wales County for a while, so it is reasonable for Prince Leonard to not be able to concentrate on his work, right? After hearing this, Hasta asked Keys to leave, then got up and left the study, and ordered the servants to prepare some clothes for change. Things here have been arranged almost, and he can leave Panine Port with Sharon tomorrow. This time, he did not plan to bring Azishara with him, but just told Azishara to stay at home. In order to deal with Azishara's pitiful appearance of being abandoned, Hasta promised to let her eat dried fish when he was away, which made her sadness a little less. Meow meow. Azishara, who had just reluctantly agreed to stay at home with Hasta, turned around and ran to Sharon to complain. Unfortunately, Sharon did not spoil it this time, but only promised to bring it some dried fish, a specialty of Intis, when she came back, which made Azishara smile with satisfaction. The next morning, before the sun fell on the sea surface of Panine Port, a ferry had already sailed from Panine Port to the coastal port of Fanitport Kingdom. The best route to the Republic of Intis from Panine Port is by sea. You need to pass through the Kingdom of Fanitport first, then go to Seager, and then you can reach the Republic of Intis. This journey really takes a long time, so Hasta only takes a ferry to the Kingdom of Fanitport, plays for a few days, and then uses the Spiritual World Channel to go directly to the capital of the Republic of Intis, which can save a lot of time. Otherwise, it would take at least half a year to go back and forth like this. Half a year is nothing to him, but Prince Leonard can't stay at home for half a year. In the VIP room, Hasta took out the mirror Sharon gave him and placed it on the table. After a while, Sharon's figure emerged from the mirror and walked out. She didn't like crowded and noisy places, so she let Hasta carry her with her in this way. Take a rest. It takes about 5 days from Panine Port to Lost Port in Fanitport Kingdom. Sharon walked to the window where she could see the ocean waves outside and stood with Hasta. Do you know what happened in the South Continent recently? Yes, the East Balam Empire is the country that is most likely to unify the South Continent. Hasta responded, thinking that Sharon was worried about the future of the Highland Kingdom, and then said, "The Highland Kingdom is a country that allied with the East Balam Empire relatively early. In the future, it will become a powerful country second only to the East Balam Empire in the South Continent." Sharon shook her head slightly and looked directly at Asta. Is that what you mean? It has nothing to do with me, but the tide of the times pushes them forward, and this is also the best way to protect themselves from harm. In the past, the South Continent was basically a colony of the Kingdom of Loan and other countries. For the powerful, there was not much difference, but for the lower-class people, becoming a colony was not a good thing. Now the situation is easier. If the East Balam Empire can unify the entire South Continent, it will definitely be a good thing for the people living on that land. Of course, for the Kingdom of Loan, this is equivalent to losing a blood transfusion station and resource library. Sharon was silent for a while, then asked, "Is it related to your messenger Grey Carey?" "I usually don't interfere with his affairs." Asta reassured Sharon and assured her that Grey Carey's appearance was a good thing for the southern continent. "Sometimes I feel like you've gone very far," Sharon whispered softly, then returned to her usual silence, with no more emotional fluctuations. The Finet Kingdom believes in the Mother Earth. Because of the teachings of the Mother Earth, the crop planting industry here is extremely developed and prosperous. In addition, a large area of unique plain terrain produces sufficient food every year. The nearby countries more or less buy food from the Finet Kingdom. In terms of economy, this place is not as good as the Kingdom of Loan, but the people here are simple and honest, and they have more earth than people in other countries. In Lost Port, when the ship docks, the first thing you see is not the busy and prosperous dock, but a large area of rice fields along the coast that have grown golden rice ears. The sea breeze blows past, and there is really a wonder of wind blowing thousands of rice. In the Finet Kingdom, there are many research-oriented extraordinary people. The difference between them and Frank is that they will not study those weird projects. For example, let fish produce milk, grow fish heads by planting rice, pair mushrooms with all creatures that can be combined. These seem to be unreliable research. They adhere to the teachings of the Mother Earth, advocate a good harvest, and follow the most orthodox research. For example, the rice fields along the coastline are the sea rice developed by the people of the Church of the Mother Earth 2 years ago. You only need to absorb nutrients from the seawater to make the rice thrive. However, the taste is still lacking. It tastes salty and needs further research. These situations were all told by Hastur when he went ashore and found a guide at random. Hastur was also amazed at this research project. When extraordinary power and science and technology are integrated, many products that far exceed the current technological level can indeed be born. As the sun sets, the thousands of rice fields in the distance, which are blown by the sea breeze, are dyed with a rose-like color. Hastur did not choose to continue on the road, but found a hotel to stay first, and then took Sharon to stroll on the street and buy some local specialties. Especially the dried fish that Azishara has been looking forward to. Buy some now while you still remember it, otherwise you may not be able to take care of it when you return. What do you think of this little thing? Buy one and take it home to amuse Azishara. Too childish. Azishara is only 2 years old, right? She is already quite old mentally. I think she will like it. Asta still bought the cat toy with a fluffy ball hanging at the end. No kitten would refuse a cat toy and catnip, right? The two walked slowly along the street. Perhaps because they were far away in a foreign country, Sharon's facial expressions softened and her words became more human. This is a good thing. Asta always worried that Sharon would take her puppet role too seriously and gradually lose her human emotions. Although the loss of human nature is irresistible after being promoted to a higher sequence, at least now, Sharon is more adorable with human nature. When passing by a store selling telescopes, Asta went in and bought a pair of telescopes for Sharon, saying that she could use it when she played a puppet in the future. When Sharon played a puppet, she liked to stand still. With a suitable telescope, she could see farther. Sharon glanced at Asta and remained silent. After shopping, Asta took Sharon to taste the food of Fanapotter Kingdom. The quality of grain crops here is extremely high, so the bread and rice here are sweeter and more delicious than those in other countries. In Silver City, Mr. A was also enjoying his dinner while supervising the upcoming star sacrifice in Silver City. After several discussions and confirmations, he, Chief Colin of Silver City and some elders reached a consensus on the image of the stars. The black robe outlines the human figure, with stars dotted inside. There are no specific facial features, only a pair of eyes containing the stars of the universe. In the eyes, the stars are dotted and intertwined into a funnel shape, which is a bit like a galaxy vortex, rotating all the time. The outer circle of the entire statue is deliberately surrounded by fist-sized planets of different colors. Whether viewed from a distance or close up, the overall look is very majestic and solemn like a god. This is the finalized plan. With the general image, the residents of Silver City worked day and night, and it took only 3 days to complete this statue of about 10 meters high. Mr. A originally thought that the statue of the stars did not need to be so tall, but after looking at the average height of the people of Silver City, which was more than 3 meters, 10 meters was a suitable height. With the statue of the stars, the next thing was the honorific name and format required for worshipping the stars. Mr. A did not know these contents, but when the people of Silver City asked, he answered naturally. He is the master of chaos and order, the origin of all the rules of the starry sky, and he is the one who returns the stars. After Mr. A finished speaking, he was also stunned. He obviously did not understand the stars, but these contents seemed to be imprinted in the depths of his mind, but he just happened to remember them suddenly at this time. His face changed, and he left here with an excuse. Elder Lovia, who had been paying close attention to his movements, followed him. She was not afraid of being discovered by Mr. A, so she followed him openly. It was not until Mr. A arrived at the door of his room that he turned around and looked at Luo Wyatt coldly. I have no intention of doing anything to Silver City. It's useless for you to follow me all the time. I'm just curious, in your heart, which one is more important, the stars or the Lord? Lovia's bright and sharp eyes seemed to follow Mr. A's eyes and see the struggle deep in his heart. When I asked this question just now, which one did you think of first? Lovia's light words made Mr. A's face change suddenly. He pushed open the door with a gloomy face and then closed it heavily. The one who betrayed his faith. Lovia's mouth showed a hint of sarcasm, as if she saw her former self in Mr. A. Struggling faith. Another day passed, and Silver City had prepared all the sacrificial supplies. In Mr. A's description, the stars prefer highly pure things, such as gold, diamonds and other precious and extremely pure items, as well as sweeter delicacies. For this reason, Silver City collected precious metals such as gold and diamonds in the city, and made gold and diamonds into a golden crown and a round diamond planet respectively. As for the sweet delicacies, Colin gave this matter to Derek. He knew that Derek could pray to a mysterious being called the Fool, and he could also reach certain deals with other people through the Fool's kingdom. Derek, who accepted the task, chose to make a deal with Miss Justice. The other party was a wealthy person recognized by everyone in the Tarot Club. He must be very particular about food, and it should be easy to meet his needs. When Audrey received the transaction request from Little Sun from Mr. Fool, she was slightly stunned. She had fed Mr. World before, and now she needed to feed Little Sun with delicious food. Why did she feel like a nanny in the Tarot Club? But she still readily agreed to Little Sun's transaction request and told the other party not to pay any reward for it. Miss Justice is such a good person. Derek was very grateful for this. After about half an hour, a lot of sweet food was delivered to him through Mr. Fool's kingdom. There were 3 large jars of white sugar, 2 large cakes, a bunch of small cakes, ice cream, sweet soup and various cakes. Derek was stunned and couldn't help swallowing his saliva. He hadn't tasted so many delicacies yet. Just smelling the food made people itch. Without tasting it, they knew that the food must be delicious. Unfortunately, these were sacrifices to the stars, and he dared not eat them secretly. Soon, Chief Colin sent people to secretly take away the food to prevent too many people from knowing Derek's special place. Derek watched the food being dragged away, and could only hope that the chief would give him more sacrifices after the sacrifice. When everything was ready, in the dark world, lightning flashed across the sky, splitting into cracks of light. The residents of Silver City, led by Chief Colin, came to the central square. Mr. A stood on the lower right side of the statue and acted as a priest. Originally, Silver City had its own priests who were responsible for sacrifices, but the residents of Silver City unanimously agreed that this time the sacrifice to the stars should be held by him as a messenger of God. Mr. A had to bite the bullet and take on this matter. He first chanted the honorable name of the stars 3 times, and then began the sacrifice. Mr. A knelt on the ground, facing the direction of the statue, and recited earnestly and solemnly. Supreme being who travels in the galaxy. You are the master who controls the movement of the stars. You are the indescribable returner of the stars. Your loyal servant prays for your attention. Pray for you to accept his offering. Pray for you to open the gate of the kingdom. When Mr. A's pious prayer sounded, his voice seemed to suppress the roar of thunder in the sky at this moment. The waves of prayers were coming from Silver City to the sky, deeper, and even to the starry sky. A familiar starry sky slowly emerged from the depths of the sky and the prayers, forming a portal around which the stars were rotating. That was the gate to the starry sky. The residents of Silver City also knelt on the ground with Mr. A, praying that the stars would accept their sacrifices and provide them with certain blessings so that they could leave this dark world. The prayers kept floating upwards and sank into the starry skygate. Tonight the stars shined brighter and brighter. In the Hall of Stars, Hasta sat in the first seat, looking down at the sacrifice from Silver City. Although many of them were not his believers and their faith was not pure, their sacrifices and prayers were more like an equal exchange transaction. They were responsible for providing sacrifices and holding sacrifices, while he provided them with a certain amount of shelter. For the existence of the gods, the sacrifices were insignificant and could only affect their preferences and perceptions. As for whether the gifts would be bestowed, it depended on other aspects. Sacrifices like those in Silver City that were not made out of true pious faith in their hearts might bring bad consequences. It was like you were sleeping soundly, and someone in the distance was calling your name, waking you up from your deep sleep. The person who called you had a look and appearance that was in line with your aesthetic taste, but before you stepped forward, she smiled and said to you that the person she liked was someone else. Would you feel disgusted and want to beat her up? The situation in Silver City at the moment was a bit similar to this situation. Fortunately, the object of their prayers tonight was not the Lord of Storms, otherwise, with the Lord of Storms' violent temper, he would have sent down several divine punishments to wipe out the sacrificial site in Silver City. Hasta's good temper came from the huge crown made of pure gold in the sacrifice. In view of Silver City's preparation of this sacrifice, and because he did not want to embarrass Silver City, he finally decided to manifest the gate of the Kingdom of Stars. In order to prevent any accidents, Hasta was fully focused. But the accident still happened. The high-dimensional overlooker unexpectedly came to Silver City at this time. He wore a coffee-colored soft hat and a gray-black traveler's outfit. His right hand was on a thin bamboo pole on his shoulder. On the back of the bamboo pole, there were two almonds tied tightly with green vines. Well, it should be the almond clone who came to spy secretly. It must be said that the high-dimensional overlooker's ability to fish for Ammon is still very strong. With his pace, he should have arrived at Silver City long ago, but he quietly hid in the dark, waiting for the arrival of the day of the star ceremony. He knew that with Amon's love of joining in the fun and his ability to create almost unlimited clones, he would definitely not be able to resist joining in the fun. Sure enough, tonight he caught two clones of Ammon. The high-dimensional overlooker is really a qualified fisherman. Hasta sighed lightly, his eyes fell on the two almonds tied to the bamboo poles, and then shifted his eyes to the star ceremony that was still being held. In the central square of Silver City, the arrival of the high-dimensional overlooker caused an uproar and fear among the residents of Silver City. Colin's eyelids twitched violently. He didn't know the origin of the man in front of him, but he could see that the two people tied tightly on the bamboo poles were Amon's clones. Someone who could easily subdue Amon's clones must be very scary. Before Colin and the residents of Silver City could react, the high-dimension overlooker came to the statue as if no one was around, took a look at the statue of the stars, smiled slightly, and threw the bamboo pole on his shoulder. The two tightly bound Ammon clones were put on the sacrificial table and turned into 6-time worms and fell into a wine glass. Sacrifice to the stars, I will also send a sacrifice, the high-dimension overlooker said to himself, then glanced at Mr. A and Colin and others, and smiled. Don't worry about me so much, just continue to please the stars. Mr. A had a lot of question marks in his mind, but now, he really had to complete the sacrifice of the stars. He quickly suppressed other thoughts in his mind and cooperated with Colin, the chief of Silver City, to complete the final sacrifice together. Unfortunately, the starry sky portal in the sky did not open, but just flickered, and many starlights fell, covering the entire Silver City. That night, Silver City seemed to have rained, and the star rain was like a dream, beautiful and dazzling. When the residents of Silver City woke up from the shock, the star portal deep in the sky had disappeared. The starlight that was raining all over the sky had completely disappeared, making it difficult to tell whether it was an illusion or a real thing. Mr. A's tense facial expression eased slightly, and the stone that had been weighing on his heart for a long time was also removed. He looked at the majestic statue, then at the sacrificial table, and then scanned the surroundings, but could not see the person who suddenly appeared just now. "He is gone," Colin said on the side, with a complicated look in his eyes. "Is he also a resident of the God-forsaken land?" Mr. A also changed his words and chose to call the person just now, he. Colin shook his head and said, "I don't know. There are too many secrets here. We haven't even investigated the Giant King's court yet." Mr. A thought for a while and smiled. Fortunately, the sacrifice just now went smoothly, and Silver City successfully obtained the protection of the stars. "Yes, this is indeed a good thing." Colin's wrinkled face was rarely relaxed at this moment. "I'm leaving tomorrow." Mr. A directly pointed out this matter. Now that Silver City has gained the attention of the stars, he should also embark on a journey to find his own faith. Whether to continue to adhere to his faith in the Lord, or to abandon the Lord's faith and choose to believe in the stars, he needs to go through a journey to solve this problem. "This will be a pity for our Silver City." Colin sighed. Recently, when he got along with Mr. A, he found that Mr. A was not as crazy as the Aurora Society believers described by Derek. On the contrary, he was full of reason and self-restraint. Always move forward in the direction you have determined. After the star sacrifice, Colin distributed all the food on the sacrificial table to the residents of Silver City, leaving only a golden crown, a diamond planet, and a wineglass filled with 6-time worms. On the gray fog, Klein saw that everything was over, and then he retracted his gaze. Because of the advance notice from Little Sun, he also paid special attention to the star sacrifice in Silver City tonight. Whether it was the stars that sent down the miracle, or the sudden appearance of the mysterious figure with 2 Aemon clones hanging, he was deeply shocked. The blessing that can easily benefit the entire Silver City is the real gift from the gods. Klein sighed, and when he was about to leave the gray fog above his head suddenly became crazy, as if someone wanted to break in. Klein looked in the direction where the gray fog gathered, and saw the mysterious figure who appeared in Silver City tonight, staring at him through the gray fog. "Gwei am I, you finally showed up. That guy has been thinking about you." It was like a sentence ringing in his ears, like a thunder, which made Klein unable to wake up from the shock for a while. His whole body was stiff and straight, cold sweat kept flowing down his back, and drops of cold sweat also appeared on his forehead. How could this mysterious person suddenly appear outside the gray fog? And it caused such a big reaction from the gray fog. This degree of resistance was much more intense than when Aemon wanted to invade here through Derek. Who exactly is he? Klein's thoughts flashed rapidly in his mind, and he forced himself to calm down and think about how to solve the crisis in front of him. "Strange, this doesn't fit your personality. Did you just wake up recently?" "Hey, what do you think?" Klein only said this sentence, and then he used all his strength to drive away the mysterious person who suddenly visited. "It seems that you are not really Gwei Mi, but the container that Gwei Mi left to wait for resurrection?" This whisper disappeared in the gray fog, but Klein still heard it clearly. The container of Gwei Mi's resurrection, is it talking about himself? Klein's mood suddenly became very heavy. He had thought about this question before, but he always had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Maybe he would be the special one? But tonight, someone told him directly. The last glimmer of hope in his heart was gone. He was the vessel for the future resurrection of the Lord of Mystery. Shouldn't I have understood long ago that my fate has been arranged by someone? Klein laughed at himself and looked up. The gray fog over Saphiric Castle gradually returned to its former calm. The mysterious figure had been expelled by the gray fog and could no longer appear in front of him. "Mystery." Klein muttered a few words and left the gray fog. Although he was curious about the identity of the mysterious person, He was not stupid enough to divine about him. The existence that could cause such great resistance from the grey fog should be the incarnation of a true god walking on earth. In the kingdom of Fainaport, Hasta came back from the Hall of Stars and lay on the bed, unable to fall asleep. He was thinking about how to use the time worm left by Aemon. He got 12 time worms in the last incident, and now he got 6 more time worms, a total of 18 time worms, which was a huge fortune. He suddenly felt that Amon's existence was like a boss in the dungeon. Every time he swiped him, he would produce a high-level extraordinary material such as time worm. If Aemon was captured and locked up, and he kept swiping him, wouldn't it be equivalent to getting a time worm perpetual motion machine? Asta just thought for a while, and then looked at the mirror in front of the window. After staring for a while, he got up and sat on the sofa in front of the window, looking at the mirror closely. On the mirror, Sharon's figure slowly emerged. The light of the crimson moon tonight was not bright, and it fell on the mirror, as if Sharon was covered with a hazy red gauze. Very beautiful, very dreamy. Asta just smiled and gestured, without speaking, but quietly appreciated the moonlight outside the window with Sharon. Spiritual world. A black castle stood silently, and Renette Tinnicole, who was as tall as the castle, was wearing a complicated, gorgeous, dark and gloomy black dress. Originally, she had no head, and there was a neat incision on her neck. Her drooping hands held 4 identical heads with blonde hair, red eyes and bright looks. But now, the 4 heads in her hands have been combined into one and accurately placed on her neck. Except that her body has become as huge as a castle, other parts are no different from normal people. When Hasta and Sharon entered the spiritual world and came here, they saw what Renette Tinnicole looked like at the moment. Sharon. Seeing Sharon and Hasta suddenly come, Renette Tinnicole slowly uttered Sharon's name, and the light in her eyes was a little more intelligent than the last time they met. Teacher, have your injuries completely recovered? Sharon came closer in disbelief. The last time I saw my teacher, she was still carrying 4 heads and her body was seriously damaged. It was impossible for her to recover in a short time. A mysterious person helped me. Renette Tinnicole stretched out her palm and let Sharon stand on her palm, then retracted her palm and looked at Sharon closely. You have grown a lot. Teacher. Sharon murmured with red eyes when she heard her teacher's gentle voice again, but she quickly calmed down her excitement when she thought of Hasta still watching her from behind. Why did you come to the spirit world? We are planning to go to the Republic of Intis through the spirit world, and we want to stop by here. Hasta, who was standing behind, raised his head and looked up at Renette Tinnicole, who was as tall as a castle. Not by the way. Sharon added deliberately. She came here on purpose to see how her teacher was doing. That's great. Renette Tinnicole smiled gently, and then her body shrank rapidly and turned into a normal human appearance. She looked a little taller than Sharon, with beautiful blonde hair that looked like gold, and her eyes turned from red to blue. Roughly speaking, she was a bright and beautiful big sister with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's rare for you to come here. Come in and sit down. Renette Tinnicole invited Sharon and Hasta to enter the castle. Well, okay. Sharon responded and followed Renette Tinnicole, and Hasta followed into the castle. The dusty castle gate opened a little bit, welcoming its owner Renette Tinnicole to move in again. Entering the castle, Hasta was slightly surprised. He thought there was something different about this castle, but the overall structure and decoration style did not look much different from the castles in the real world. When Sharon was a child, she liked living in this castle the most. Renette Tinnicole gestured to Hasta to sit on the sofa covered with red cushions. Her eyes seemed to be lost in memories. When she wakes up every morning, she always likes me to call her the little princess. Whenever I call her that, she is always happy all day long. Teacher. Sharon's thin face was a little embarrassed when she heard this, and the tip of her ear turned red. Please continue, I like to listen. Asta replied with a smile, motioning Renette Tinnicole to continue. Sharon, will you be angry? Renette Tinnicole looked at Sharon sitting next to her and asked deliberately. Sharon did not answer, but glanced at Asta with a calm look, then took a deep breath, and the whole person seemed to be completely calm. Renette Tinnicole looked at Asta meaningfully, smiled lightly, took Sharon's little hand, patted her hand twice, and began to talk about some things about Sharon's childhood. Asta listened very attentively, and with Renette Tinicle's supplement, he naturally outlined Sharon's childhood in his mind. With a teacher like Renette Tinicle who dotes on her tenderly and lives in such a castle, she was raised as a real princess. If it weren't for the incident at the Rose School, Sharon would probably have become a woman like Audrey and Bernadette. Asta tried to imagine it, but still felt that Sharon in front of him was more lovely. Renette Tinicle seemed to see through Asta's thoughts and asked casually, "Is Sharon cute now?" "Yes, very cute." Asta nodded naturally in approval. Sharon, who was the center of the discussion between the two, did not have a very obvious expression on her face, but just looked at the two calmly. "I always hope that someone can take good care of Sharon for me." "Teacher." Sharon, who had been silent all the time, finally couldn't help but interrupt what Renette Tinicle was about to say. "Alas, little Sharon is angry." Renette Tinicle sighed, with a slightly resentful tone, as if she was lamenting that the little cotton jacket she loved since childhood began to leak. Sharon didn't want to say harsh words to her teacher, so she looked at Asta who was looking at her with a smile, and asked him to change the subject for her. Asta said seriously, "I will try my best to do this." "That's great." Renette Tinicle nodded with satisfaction. Sharon said calmly with an expressionless face, "You guys chat." After saying that, she ignored Renette Tinicle and Asta, got up and left the first floor hall alone and went up to the second floor. Renette Tinicle looked at her with a smile, motioning Asta to stay for a while. "I know you have a lot of secrets. I just hope you won't hurt Sharon in the future." Renette Tinicle put away the smile on her face and said, "Humanity is the pillar against chaos and pollution. I hope you will never lose yourself." When Sharon came down from the room where she lived as a child on the second floor, Asta was no longer in the first floor hall, only her teacher. She said lightly, "Where is he?" "He said he was going to meet his old friend, so he asked you to wait here for a while." Sharon walked to Renette Tinicle and sat down, silent. "Do you want to know what the teacher said to him just now?" "No," Sharon answered very affirmatively. "I thought you wanted to know." Renette Tinicle smiled and reached out to gently touch Sharon's head. Sharon's body stiffened at first, then she leaned on Renette Tinicle's shoulder, as if she was reliving the past. After leaving Renette Tinicle's castle for a distance, Hastur began to summon Gregory. A huge phoenix flapping its wings and soaring through the spirit world, making all the spirit creatures nearby tremble. At present, in the days when the Lord of Mysteries has not yet awakened, he is the master of the spirit world. When he was about to approach Hastur, he turned into a smaller version of a little firebird and gently landed on Hastur's shoulder. "Look at you, you should be doing well recently, right?" "Chew." Gregory responded happily. "I don't know if it's because the end of the world is approaching, but his recovery speed has been much faster than before recently. I want to go somewhere, and I need you to accompany me." "Chirp." Gregory patted her chest with her right wing, indicating that she could walk sideways in the spirit world. "Really?" Asta smiled and looked up at the direction of the 7 pure lights in the spirit world. He had thought about coming to talk to the fool before, and now that he was passing by the spirit world, it was a good opportunity. With Gregory there, the 7 pure lights and the Fulgrim's dog could not stop him from approaching the grey fog and coming to the gate of Saphira Castle. In order not to trigger Saphira Castle's self-defense measures, Asta only planned to knock on the gate of Mr. Fool's Kingdom of God. It should be interesting to see how Mr. Fool would react to this. Asta thought of the interesting picture and felt much happier. Gregory looked at the space above the 7 pure lights and fell into a brief contemplation. At the beginning, he also tried to approach that place, but in the end he couldn't even enter the gate. That was the fortress where a pillar lived, and only those who were invited by him had the opportunity to enter. Otherwise, even if more true gods came here, they would not be able to enter through the fortress gate. He had also talked with the 7 pure lights of the spirit world and understood that the pillar was called the Lord of Mystery, also known as the King of Time and Space, the Beacon of Destiny, the incarnation of Saphira Castle, and the ruler of the spirit world. He seemed to be in a deep sleep at present, but these days, especially in the past few days, the grey fog shrouding there seemed to be stirring. Could it be that the Lord of Mystery has awakened? It seems that you already know where I want to go. Chirp. Gregory responded, and her body suddenly grew larger, turning into a phoenix with huge wings flapping, motioning Hasta to sit on her back. Remember to be polite later. Hasta reminded him, and floated to the broad and soft back of the phoenix and sat down. Chirp. Gregory let out a long cry, flapped her wings, and carried Hasta straight to the direction of the 7 pure lights of the spirit world. The 7 pure lights that had originally stood upright in the spirit world were now unstable, as if they were afraid and on guard against something. On the sea, Klein, with a fierce face and full beard, was throwing a blade that had just killed a pirate with a bounty of 1,200 gold pounds on the deck of the ship. He wiped his blood-spattered fingers with the corner of the clothes of a pirate who was standing next to him and dared not move. After doing all this, he looked at the pirates around him who were already scared silly. You must live well and try to increase your value, so that I can use your heads to exchange for some wine money in the future. Klein smiled, and his low and hoarse voice made the listeners feel creepy. Now, get out, before I change my mind. The pirates around heard this and left the pirate ship in a panic. Some pirates even jumped into the sea holding empty oak barrels. The Black Skull pirates, which were well known among pirates, collapsed like this. After all the pirates on the ship left, Klein whispered, "A bounty of 1,200 gold pounds is not bad. But I still have to pay Mr. Hanged Man 100 gold pounds for intelligence fees, and I still owe Miss Messenger 7,600 gold coins. According to the unequal exchange rate between gold coins and gold pounds, I still need to earn nearly 8,000 gold pounds in bounties, which will require about 7 or 8 bounty missions. Alas, it's a pity that those well-known pirates have found a place to hide under the suppression of the Storm Church. If it weren't for Mr. Hanged Man's internal information, it would be difficult for me to hunt them accurately." He thought that if he could hunt down a big pirate worth 5,000 gold pounds, it would be easy to pay off the debt. Fortunately, Miss Messenger never took the initiative to ask for repayment. "Go back first, and hunt down another pirate hiding nearby tomorrow." When Klein was about to leave the pirate ship, the spirit in his mind frantically signaled him to go above the gray fog. There was no other way, so Klein could only find a dirty bathroom nearby. He endured the uncomfortable smell and walked 4 steps backwards to enter the gray fog. When he arrived, the gray fog outside Saphira Castle was raging wildly, and the noise was even more violent than the last time the mysterious man visited. He sat at the head of the bronze table and looked down. Through the cracks in the rolling gray fog, he could vaguely see 7 light beams of different colors rising into the sky and reaching the space below the gray fog. Several creatures that looked like hounds ran out of the time cracks, with their tails erected, and were fully alert to something. Klein had seen this kind of creature in the book that Mr. Azek gave him. This is the Fulgrim's dog. It is a loyal guardian of the spirit world. Something is wrong. Klein noticed something different from last time. Last time, he was observing the City of Silver when he was discovered by the mysterious person, and then came to the outer edge of the gray fog through the traces he left behind. At that time, he was not only separated from him by the gray fog, but also by the long distance of the god-forsaken land. But this time, it seemed to be heading straight for Saphira Castle. Even he himself didn't know where Saphira Castle was exactly, so how did the other party find him? The Fulgrim dogs guarding Saphira Castle outside must have chosen to incarnate because they were afraid that the other party would harm Saphira Castle. Klein couldn't help but feel panic in his heart. This was the first time that an unknown existence found his real residential address through the internet cable. Who was it? Was it the mysterious man from last time? Klein looked at the scene outside the gray fog seriously and worriedly. After a while, a bird cry that was enough to break through the clouds resounded throughout the gray fog. Then a fiery red light spread from below, and even the gray fog was dyed into a large piece of red clouds. The Fulgrim dog's vigilance also reached its peak at this time. In their vigilance and Klein's gaze, a huge phoenix flapped its wings that covered the sky and appeared in front of the gray fog. And on the huge phoenix, it seemed that there was a palace gathering hazy starlight. Inside the palace, a mysterious being also sat at the head of the long table. Klein looked at the other person through the gray fog, and suddenly felt his scalp tingling. He tried to suppress the panic in his heart, maintain his calm on the surface, and stared at the mysterious being from a distance. The gray fog outside the source castle began to stir and spread, trying to swallow the illusory palace emitting starlight. But strands of starlight fell, turning into a barrier, completely blocking the spread and erosion of the gray fog. Fool! Inside the Starlight Palace, the mysterious being faintly uttered the name of the fool. Klein's expression was shocked, and he immediately understood the true identity of the place. Stars. Who else could sit in the hall formed by the light of the stars? Moreover, he and the other party had just stopped George III from ascending to the throne in Backland last time. Could it be because of that cooperation that the stars locked on his true position? Then why did he come today? Klein didn't think too much. He leaned back slightly, pretending to be calm and composed. Then he chuckled and said, "Stars. Since the other party has come to the outside of the gate, and the gray fog can't stop him, he can only pretend to be the real fool, the real Lord of Mysteries by bluffing. Only in this way can he protect himself and scare the other party away. You just woke up not long ago, and you seem to be still very weak?" Faced with the undisguised temptation of the stars, Klein simply tapped the table with his fingers, and said with a smile on his lips, "It hasn't been long since the stars awakened?" It is not difficult to make this guess. The Stars organization and his own tarot club appeared at almost the same time, and the believers of both were active in Backland at the same time. It is enough to show that this Stars has just awakened not long ago, and is constantly expanding his beliefs through his believers and actively influencing the real world. This form and style is very much like a powerful existence that has been sleeping, waking up, and starting to re-understand the world and intervene in it. How does this look like my self-positioning as Mr. Fool? In the eyes of the Tarot Club members, Mr. Fool is such a mysterious existence. The only difference between me and the stars is that I, the fool, am pretending, bluffing, and just for show. And the other party, the stars, is a real existence that has awakened from ancient times. Is this a fake Li Kui meeting a real whirlwind? Klein was a little unsure, but he still tried to maintain his calm on the surface, wanting to hear what the other party had to say. Was he here with malicious intent, or did he want to negotiate cooperation with him? Do you remember the agreement we made at the beginning? Klein's head was full of question marks. The original agreement? What agreement? Why didn't he know? The object that the stars were talking about should be the original Lord of Mysteries, right? But he didn't have the Lord of Mysteries memory, so who knew what kind of agreement the Lord of Mysteries and the stars had reached at the beginning? It's over, I'm not going to be exposed, am I? No, I must not answer this question directly. Klein was silent for a while before answering. Times have changed, and everything in the past should have been buried in the long river of history. In the new era, there can also be new agreements. Does the stars also need a partner? Seeing that the stars came to visit today without any malicious intent, Klein decided to ask the other party in return to see if he could find out the other party's details. I was the mystery in the past, and I am the fool now. Since we are different, we should start over. Klein frowned slightly, a little confused about the meaning of this sentence. The stars seemed to say this deliberately. Did he see the difference between him and the Lord of Mystery? Or did he regard himself as the newborn of the Lord of Mystery? How do the stars want to cooperate? Klein decided to test the stars' purpose again. Fool, you are too weak now. Klein was speechless. He actually heard a teasing and friendly tone in this sentence. Did the relationship between the mystery and the stars be very friendly at the beginning? Forget it, he didn't need to sort out the relationship here. Even if he was really exposed by the other party, at most, he would leave Saphiric Castle and return to the real world, leaving the stars alone outside the gate of Saphiric Castle. Often the party that actively seeks cooperation is the weakest and most bluffing. Klein appropriately showed the tough side of Mr. Fool. Fool, aren't you bluffing right now? Such a simple sentence made Klein tremble. Of course he was bluffing. Was this a test from the stars, or had he really seen through his true and false? Klein still maintained a calm tone. It's not me who came to seek cooperation. Maybe I'm here to provide you with protection. The protection of the stars should be left to those who need it more. After Klein finished speaking, he vaguely heard the stars chuckle, as if they were amused. Is what he said so ridiculous? Klein carefully reviewed every answer he had given before, and there was nothing worth laughing about. Although I dare not say that my disguise is perfect, it is not so easy to reveal flaws. The stars seem to be in a good mood. Indeed, it's good to meet old friends. Klein's heart trembled again. Meet old friends? The stars, the Lord of Mysteries, and the Fool are no longer considered human beings. Why did the stars use the word, old friends? Old friend. What an interesting word. Klein, who really didn't know how to respond, turned to show a half-smile, as if he had seen through some secrets of the stars. Turn passivity into initiative. He has mastered this skill to perfection in the long-term tarot club. Old friend, hometown, these words. Russell had looked up at the starry sky many times, as if he was recalling something through the starry sky. Austin naturally put the blame on Russell. Thinking about it carefully, this is not a blame. Russell must have looked up at the starry sky more than once. It is hard to guarantee that he would not say some little secrets that only he can hear when he is alone. Russell? Klein's heart moved slightly, and he showed his curiosity at the right time. The stars are watching all this. His magnificent, tortuous and bizarre life is also under the watchful eyes of this starry sky. Although he thought he was very secretive, especially the unique text he left behind, it seems that he does not belong to this era. Will there be only one special person like him? Klein couldn't help but panic when he heard this. If the stars really watch everything, then is his birth also under the watchful eyes of the stars? Has he seen that he is a time traveler who occupies the identity of the original owner Klein? Not necessarily. The person who traveled through time is Joe Mingrui. Klein, what does he have to do with Mr. Fool? Unless the stars can see through the cover-up of Saphira Castle, how can he know that he is the new owner of Saphira Castle? Perhaps this is just a deliberate trick by him. After thinking about this, Klein slowly said, Russell is indeed an interesting person, but it's a pity that he chose the wrong path in the end. Since you want to talk about Russell, then talk about it. Anyway, through Russell's diary, he has roughly understood the legendary life of this fellow villager and his general personality and style of doing things. By talking about Russell, a figure of the past, Mr. Fool can show his ancient mystery and awakening from his deep sleep. Fool, you seem to be familiar with Russell. Of course, I know which witch he slept with on which date. Klein complained in his heart, but said calmly, it's a great fate. Fate? That's a very interesting saying. The stars seem to care about Russell? He has a quality worth exploring. The stars are watching everything, can't they fully understand everything? Then Klein and Hastert took Russell as the center of the topic, pretending to be mysterious and talked about a lot of things, just short of exposing Russell from the inside out. Fortunately, they all stopped at a certain point and didn't talk in depth. In the end, Hastert paused the topic about Russell. In terms of the degree of understanding of Russell, he and Klein were almost taught by the same master, and there was no way to break the trick. Neither of them had ever seen Russell in person, nor had they ever really talked to him. One knew Russell indirectly through his diary, and the other knew Russell through the original book. If they really wanted to talk, the two of them were equally matched. One of them might say something wrong and give the other a handle. Moreover, how could the stars come to see the Fool to just talk about Russell? He was not qualified to be the focus of discussion, so he could only be a small topic of conversation to divert the topic. Fool, are you interested in attending a star conference? Hastert offered an olive branch to attend the star conference, wanting to see what choice Klein would make. Star conference? Is it similar to the tarot club he founded? The members of the star conference mentioned by the stars, wouldn't they all be terrifying beings of the same status as the stars? A tarot club has already made him work hard and fight with his wits and courage. If he were to attend another star conference and face a bunch of terrifying beings comparable to true gods. That scene, just thinking about it makes people feel terrified. Klein's heart trembled. He was just a fake Lord of Mysteries. It took him a lot of brain cells to deal with Miss Justice and Mr. Hanged Man as Mr. Fool. He really didn't have the energy to deal with the terrible beings at the star conference. Many beings are looking forward to the return of the Lord of Mysteries. Star conference, interesting, who are they? Klein seemed interested, but in fact, he secretly said in his heart, I'm not the Lord of Mysteries, and I don't look forward to meeting them at all. The Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Overlord, the Son of Chaos, the High-Dimensional Overlooker. Klein's eyelids twitched wildly, and his heart was beating non-stop. He was not familiar with other Sons of Chaos, Superstar Overlords, and High-Dimensional Overlookers, but he knew something about the Mother Tree of Desire. The evil god worshipped by the Rose School of Indulgence is the Mother Tree of Desire. Being able to participate in the same meeting and talk on an equal footing means that beings like the Son of Chaos are also evil gods whose status is not lower than that of the Mother Tree of Desire. The Star Conference is more like a gathering of evil gods. Such a meeting is enough to make one's scalp numb just thinking about it, let alone personally participating in it. Stay away from the so-called Star Conference. So it's them. Klein chuckled and refused. Oh, I'm not interested. Asta deliberately said with regret. That's a pity. No, it's not a pity at all. I haven't lived enough. Klein smiled but said nothing. He would not attend any Star Conference. But for some reason, he had a hunch that he might not be able to escape the law of true fragrance in the future. After all, this law is sometimes more accurate than 1 + 1 = 2. We talked a little too much today. Klein issued an order to expel him. He really felt a little tired. This conversation today has wasted countless brain cells of his. Dealing with the ancient existence of Star, who has lived for who knows how many years, he can't relax for a moment, otherwise it will be easy to be seen through and cause trouble. Fool, I look forward to our next meeting. I hope you can give me more surprises at that time. Hastur, who was satisfied with his own fun, had no intention of continuing the conversation. He just came to visit today. Any cooperation and the like were incidental. He mainly wanted to see what kind of interesting reaction Mr. Fool would have when he was found along the internet cable. The effect was not bad. Outside the gray fog, the huge phoenix looked up at the Fulgrim dogs, and the star palace on its back finally gradually disappeared. The phoenix, burning like hellfire, let out a high-pitched cry that resounded throughout the gray fog, shaking the entire gray fog. Riding a phoenix, is this the face of the stars? It's really enviable. Klein watched the stars leave, and a big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. He closed his eyes and sighed heavily. The stars finally left. As he left, the Fulgrim dogs whimpered in the direction of Saphira Castle for a while, and disappeared into the historical pores. He didn't look forward to the next meeting with the stars at all, and his little heart was firmly saying no. This kind of exciting meeting should be avoided if possible. Klein looked at the 7 pure lights that were completely filled with gray fog, and sat in silence for a long time. It took a long time before he recovered from the fear just now. Just now, the stars mentioned the old friend, Rissel, with a hint of meaning, which made his heart tighten. He was sure that the stars, who were watching everything, already knew the identity of Rissel as a traverser. After all, Rissel at that time claimed to be the protagonist of the era, and he was flamboyant and did not know how to restrain himself, which brought many changes to this era and pushed this era forward at a rapid speed. It would definitely attract the attention of some ancient beings, and the stars were one of them. It was hard for him to imagine what kind of power and authority the stars had. Maybe reversing time and space and traveling through the galaxy at will were just commonplace for those beings. If Rissel's appearance really attracted their attention, they might be more interested in the Earth where Rissel lived before he traveled through time. Fortunately, I am different from Rissel. Klein secretly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he did not show his uniqueness everywhere like Rissel, so that he could try to avoid unnecessary attention and grow up safely to this day. Unfortunately, this quiet life can't last long. The stars have already set their sights on him, and there may be other terrible beings who will also set their sights on him in the future. In the future, unless it is necessary, don't easily observe those beings that are far stronger than you through Saphira Castle, otherwise it will easily attract their attention. Klein thought for a long time in the gray fog, and only returned to the real world when his spiritual power was almost exhausted. In Reinette Tinnicoli's Black Castle, when Hester visited again, Sharon was chatting with Reinette Tinnicol in the lobby on the first floor. Chirp! Greg Carey, who had followed Hester back, huddled up into a small ball and flew to Sharon's side. then stood on her right shoulder and looked up and down at Twinkle beside her. He withdrew his gaze. He will take us on this journey. Hasta sat on the sofa opposite Sharon, took a cup of hot tea from Twinkle, and took a sip. He seems to like you quite a lot. Chirp. Grey Carrie responded, stretched out her wings, and touched Sharon's head lightly, as if to say, I will protect this person. Sharon was used to this, and Twinkle's eyes narrowed slightly, and in the end she just sighed. Sharon stretched out her hand to tease Grey Carrie and asked casually, where were you just now? Going to meet an old friend I haven't met yet. Sharon didn't ask any more questions. The two of them stayed in the castle for a while, and then followed Grey Carrie to leave the spirit world and go to the Republic of Intis. In order not to attract too much attention, Hasta asked Grey Carrie to stop some distance away from the capital Trier. Grey Carrie waved her wings lightly, and a spiritual portal appeared. Hasta and Sharon appeared 100 miles away from Trier, the capital of the Republic of Intis. This place is located on the main road leading to the capital Trier. The two of them just waited on the roadside for a while. Hasta rented a carriage from a passing caravan for 10 gold coins and went to the capital with them, Trier. The currency of the Republic of Intis is firkin and cope. The gold pound of the Kingdom of Loen is not easily accepted here, but the value of the gold coin is still strong. These gold coins were given to Sharon by Twinkle before she left. Thinking that the money was earned by Mr. Fool's hard work outside, Hasta couldn't help but exchange some gold coins with Sharon. After all, the gold coins earned by Mr. Fool are more enjoyable to spend. The Keaton Caravan is a medium-sized caravan that specializes in traveling between the seaside port and the capital Trier to earn some price difference. Thanks to Emperor Toricel, the road infrastructure here in the Republic of Intis is extremely well built. Not only are there steam train tracks all over the country, but the main roads between major cities are also very flat. Even on rainy days, there will be no uneven or muddy conditions. With this transportation foundation, the business atmosphere of the Republic of Intis is very strong, and basically every city has many caravans. People generally divide these caravans into third-class caravans, large, medium and small according to their size. A small caravan only needs to meet the size of 20 people, while a medium-sized caravan needs 100 people to start. As for a large caravan, it needs to go to the capital Trier and obtain royal approval before it can be established. It is said that at the beginning, Emperor Russell wanted to mix caravans and mercenaries, called a mercenary group. Then it was divided into 7 levels from high to low, S, A, B, C, D, E, F, but in the end it was not implemented. According to the investigation of later generations of experts, it is believed that in the era of Emperor Russell, wars were still very frequent. If the caravans were given the right to recruit mercenaries independently, then a powerful mercenary group would have enough money and combatants at the same time. For the stability of the country, this cannot be allowed to exist. For this reason, Emperor Russell separated the caravans from the mercenaries, and stipulated that only official organizations could equip the caravans with mercenaries, and strictly controlled the number of people recruited privately by the caravans. Fortunately, the politics of the Republic of Intis are generally pretty good, and the relevant official institutions have not been too difficult or harsh on the caravans. However, as the situation on the mainland has changed in the past 2 years, official agencies in some cities have taken the opportunity to make money, and many small and medium-sized caravans have been forced to disband. This information was all told by Hasta from the people next to him when he was driving the carriage. Our current consul only cares about his reputation. He can't do big things, but he doesn't want to do small things. He only knows how to do some superficial charity every day, at least 3 or 5 times a month. Today I am calling for donations for the poor people on the northwest border. Tomorrow I am talking about how difficult life is in the small country of Lundberg next door, and the day after tomorrow I am concerned about the food production of the Kingdom of Fenport this summer. Recently, we have said that we are going to fight the Fasak Empire, but I don't feel very positive about it. The entire elite class from top to bottom behaves like they don't care much. Mr. Byrne, who was riding a horse slowly next to him, was bored and was seriously talking to Hasta about various things in the Republic of Intis. In the carriage, Sharon also heard the conversations outside, but she didn't express an opinion. She just sat quietly inside, like a real puppet. It wasn't until night fell that the Keaton caravan decided to camp and rest nearby. She got out of the carriage at Haster's invitation. Many people in Keaton's caravan couldn't help but pay attention, and then looked at Haster with great envy. Mr. Byrne, who had chatted a lot with Haster today, winked at Haster and pretended to say, "You are really lucky to have such a lady." Facing such envious looks and whispers, Asta smiled with a smile on his face and did not explain anything. Instead, he warmly invited them to drink. Sharon naturally did not explain anything, but just sat quietly by the campfire, staring at the flames driven by the wind, swaying gently. The wind tonight was not strong, and it was very comfortable. Being used to seeing the flames, Sharon's eyes inadvertently swept over Asta, who was chatting with others. Leaving the kingdom of Lowen, he seemed more real when he was out. Sensing her gaze, Asta shook the plate of grilled sausages he had just brought, walked to Sharon and sat down, motioning her to try it. Not bad. Sharon tasted a few bites and gave a good evaluation. This grilled sausage tastes much better than what I ate in Backland, and this smoked beef is not bad either. Asta brought Sharon another portion of potato soup and a portion of smoked beef, which was tonight's dinner. He spent some money and asked the head of the caravan for a glass of fruit wine, which was said to be brewed according to the manuscript left by Emperor Russell. There was no way to tell whether it was real or fake, but it tasted good. Sharon just took a sip of the potato soup, put down the spoon, and looked at Asta calmly. Asta naturally looked away and said, "I'll get you a glass of fruit wine? Or hot tea, coffee? You drink it." Sharon handed the potato soup directly to Asta. Looking at the sticky mashed potatoes with bright red tomato juice, water and simple seasoning of the potato soup, Asta had no appetite at all. "Can I not drink it?" "No," Asta sighed. If he had known not to tease Sharon with this potato soup just now, he could only bite the bullet and drink most of this potato soup. In the end, he really couldn't drink it anymore, so he could only use the excuse that he was full tonight. Sharon just silently tasted the delicious grilled sausage and ignored Asta. After the episode, Asta and Sharon sat by the campfire and talked about what they saw and heard today. Sharon only occasionally said a few words. At around 8 o'clock in the evening, when the caravan members who had been traveling for most of the day were about to fall asleep, a figure came out of the dense forest, disturbing the tranquility here. The person who came was a young man. He was wearing a white robe, barefoot, and his golden hair was tied up with a golden headband. He had a warm and gentle smile on his face, and his eyes were bright and energetic. When you stare at him carefully, it seems as if you have come from night to day. The priest of the Eternal Sun Church? This was Asta's first impression of the young man. After looking at him carefully for a while, he felt that this person was not simple, so he stopped staring at him to avoid attracting his attention. It was only 20 to 30 miles away from the capital Trier. It was normal to meet the priest of the Eternal Sun Church, or the bishop. After the young man chatted with the head of the caravan for a few words, he got a delicious meal. He carried the plate, glanced around, and went straight to the direction of Asta and Sharon. He looked at the empty seat next to Asta and said with a smile, "Do you mind if I sit here?" "Yes." Asta smiled and said, "Sir, you should know that on such a beautiful night, I just want to spend it with the beautiful girl next to me. I really don't want others to disturb our solitude. If you have been young, you should understand the little thoughts of boys and girls." The young man was obviously stunned for a while, and then apologized, "Sorry, I didn't think it through." As he said, he took the plate full of food and sat in the empty seat of another bonfire. He seemed to be very talkative. While eating food, he could also chat with people nearby. Asta retracted his gaze, looked at Sharon with a calm face, and chuckled. "I didn't lie just now. It is indeed more comfortable for two people to be alone." "Yeah." Sharon just nodded, and her eyes moved to the flames of the bonfire. Under the red firelight, Sharon's cheeks seemed to be stained with a faint red glow. Late at night, during rest, the person in charge of Keaton's caravan only assigned Haster and Sharon a waterproof tent in the wild. Inside the tent were only two simple sheepskin blankets that were stained with black spots and stained with yellow turbidity. There is also a strong and unusual smell. Sharon had no problem with this. She just needed to stay in the mirror and get through the night easily. Hester looked at the sheepskin blanket spread on the wooden board, and really had no desire to lie down on it and sleep. "Aren't you going to sleep?" Sharon appeared from the mirror and looked specifically at Hester, who looked troubled. "Well, I'm used to living a noble life." Hester sighed and looked at the mirror placed on a wooden bench. "Is the space inside the mirror big?" "Not big. It shouldn't be difficult to add one more person, right?" Sharon did not answer directly, but just said, "You need to stay outside to prevent accidents." "I believe no one will disturb me tonight." Hester looked eager to give it a try. He really wanted to try what it would be like to spend a night in the mirror. "Where is the strange visitor? I'm not familiar with him." Just as Hester was about to say something more, the voice of the young man tonight came from outside the tent. "It seems that you won't have this chance tonight." After Sharon finished speaking, her body completely disappeared into the mirror, leaving Hester in a clearly unhappy mood. "Finally, Sharon and I could be alone in the mirror, but someone kept coming to disturb us. I really want to beat him up." Hester sighed, calmed down a little, then stood up and opened a corner of the tent and walked out. Before the young man could say anything, Asta spoke first. "Do you know how I feel when I have to go out to deal with an unfamiliar stranger on such a beautiful night? I do pay special attention to you. It can even be said that I am here tonight just for you." The young man smiled and nodded. "It's really rude. I haven't introduced myself yet. Ross Hurley, this is me walking outside." The name used. "So what?" Hester was not too surprised. This man's performance tonight had revealed his intentions many times. "Are you willing to join the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun?" Ross Hurley lowered his eyes and sincerely invited. "Ah." There was a surprised look on Hester's face. Did he really not expect that this person was inviting him to join the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun because he also has dazzling blonde hair? Based on his relationship with the Eternal Blazing Sun, he probably wished he could rain down heavenly fire to kill him. He helped the Superstar Master several times, causing the Eternal Fierce Sun to be severely damaged. The Kingdom of God was almost destroyed, and now the door to the Kingdom of God has been directly closed. If nothing unexpected happens, Eternal Fierce Sun will definitely be the next true god to fall. Joining the Eternal Sun Church at this time is equivalent to joining the National Army in 1949. Please forgive my refusal. I am not interested in the faith of the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun at all. I am not a citizen of your Republic of Intis. I am just a Loan person who just came out to relax. I guessed that you would refuse." Rose Hurley showed no signs of depression on his face and still smiled. "I have never met anyone who is as destined to the sun as you are." "Destined? Does it refer to my fate of helping the Superstar Master bombard the Kingdom of the Eternal Fierce Sun again and again? That is indeed fate. Forcing a person to change his faith is not something a qualified believer would do." Hester refused with a smile. "If you are willing to join the Eternal Burning Sun Church, I think you can become the new Pope of the Eternal Burning Sun Church in the future." Hearing this, Hester couldn't help asking, "What exactly did you see in me?" "A sun?" Hester was stunned for a moment, then chuckled and shook his head. "In terms of the secret self, unless the outer God comes in person, it will be difficult for anyone to see through his true identity. Not to mention seeing a sun from his body. Perhaps I didn't express it clearly enough." Ross Hurley smiled himself. "Everyone has different feelings for various reasons. I said I saw a sun in you, refers to the feeling you gave me, not what I actually saw. Looking at you is like looking at a sun that has just risen, so dazzling and charming." Rose Hurley appeared here and said words that were easily misunderstood, attracting many night watchmen who had not yet rested to look over. "No, I am not Emperor Russell. I am not sensitive to matters between men. This is Ross Hurley. I think you shouldn't bring up topics that could easily lead to misunderstandings with someone you've just met not long ago." Hester stopped him from continuing. "That's it for tonight. I'm going back to rest, please do so." After saying that, Hester ignored Ross Hurley, opened a corner of the tent and walked in. "Oh, it's too hasty, but there isn't much time left." Rose Hurley sighed and whispered. Not far away, someone was whistling by the campfire, pointing to his companion who looked like a black bear next to him and jokingly said, "What do you think of my friend? you can rest assured that he is a master of the art of physical strength. The big guy who was hit stood up in time and gave Ross Hurley a big crotch bump. Ross Hurley just smiled at them, without showing any anger on his face. When he left, the big guy felt a fire burning in his heart, his eyes gradually turned red, and he was breathing heavily. "What's wrong with you? Are you really interested in that person? I was just joking just now." The big guy, who was like a big black bear, didn't finish his words before he picked up the person who was joking beside him, and took him into the jungle regardless of his struggle. After a long time, a shrill scream resounded through the jungle. In the tent, Sharon, who had already hidden in the mirror, showed up again and glanced at Asta, who was in deep thought. "He is very interested in you." She deliberately paused on the word interest. "Sharon, you have learned to joke too." Asta put away his thoughts, came to the mirror, and showed a helpless smile on his face. "He is not simple." Sharon just changed the subject lightly. "I know." Asta thought for a moment and said, "I'm good at attracting other people's attention because I'm too dazzling." Narcissism. Tisk, Sharon, you seem to be much more cheerful this time than before. Is it because you are about to completely digest the puppet potion? Well, I fit this sequence very well. Asta chatted with Sharon for a few more words, and then coaxed Sharon to allow him to go in and stay in the mirror for a night. Unfortunately, he was ruthlessly rejected in the end. The next day, Asta was awakened by a noise outside the tent. When he came outside the tent, he found a group of people surrounding the entrance of the dense forest and admiring something. He also walked over curiously to take a look. Tisk, it was really eye-catching. The big guy who looked like a big black bear was sleeping soundly against the tree trunk with his eyes closed, with a satisfied smile on his face. On his thigh, his friend who usually walked close to him was lying. At this moment, his face was pale, his eyes were dull, and there was drool at the corner of his mouth, as if he was overstimulated. After the enthusiastic explanations from the people around him, Asta finally understood the whole story. It was said that he had eaten something he shouldn't have, which led to some abnormal mental state, and then some pleasant and painful things happened. The head of the Kedin caravan was furious about this, and finally asked two people to stay here to take care of him temporarily, and the others continued to set off for the capital Trier. As for the young man named Ross Hurley last night, no one saw him again when they got up in the morning. The journey was very smooth, and there were no other messy things. The Kedin caravan finally arrived at the capital of the Republic of Intis before the sunset. In order to thank them for their care along the way, Asta specially gave them another 10 gold coins as a thank you. When he thought that this gold coin was earned by Mr. Fool outside with hard work, Asta felt particularly comfortable using it. After separating from the caravan, Asta and Sharon first found a pretty good hotel to live in. Intis Republic, southeast coastal port. At the prosperous and lively dock, Catalia accompanied Bernadette to arrive here. The two people who had not set foot on their homeland for a long time had different emotions on their faces. Ever since the White Maple Palace incident that year, the Republic of Intis has changed. The Eternal Sun Church joined forces with the Solon family to steal the throne that should have belonged to the Gustav family. At that time, Bernadette, who was far away on the sea, still hated her father, but she still secretly returned to the Republic of Intis several times, but did not find the answer she wanted. During one of her secret returns, she was discovered by the people of the Eternal Sun Church and the Solon family, and was hunted all the way. Since then, she has never set foot in this country again. Do you miss it? Bernadette looked at the familiar architectural style on both sides of the street and suddenly asked. Catalia was silent for a while, shook her head and said, I can't remember it clearly. She left Intis at a young age and left with Bernadette. At that time, she hated the hometown where she lived because of Bernadette's hatred, and there were not many memories worth remembering. Her good memories of childhood were all related to the man in front of her. Let's go, it's time to go back and see our old friends. Trier, the capital of the Republic of Intis, is the capital of the Republic of Intis. Because of the rise of the god of machinery and steam, and the story between him and Rissel, it has to be told. The degree of mechanization here is more popular than Backland and Lowen. From airships that use steam and extraordinary power to alarm clocks in ordinary people's homes. Many places here show the side of steel and gears. Even the carriages that carry passengers are made of steel as the skeleton, and then equipped with chains, gears, wheels, and finally horses that can provide suitable power. There are also iron box cars that can move forward without horses as power, but the speed is still very slow, and it is far less swift and free than the carriages. But it has initially revealed the side of future technology. At more than 8 o'clock in the evening, the crimson moon was shining, and Hasta and Sharon walked on the streets of the West District of Trier. Unlike the West District of Backland, the richest and most prosperous area of Trier is in the East District. According to the people here, Emperor Russell particularly likes the East, so he deliberately respects the East and builds the East District into the best neighborhood. The customs of Intis are different from those of Backland, which is known for its conservatism. Sharon's black court dress is out of tune with other girls walking around. Some people even came up to talk to Sharon and ask which clothing store she had this retro dress custom made in. Words such as retro, outdated, the dregs of the times, cumbersome, rigid, feudal and unfree are the evaluations of Sharon's clothes by Intis girls. Even Sharon, who has never had much emotion, is a little more angry at this moment. When Hasta suggested whether to follow the local customs and buy a few sets of Intis-style clothes to wear, Sharon frowned and glared at him, looking very angry. I personally always think that this kind of exquisite and beautiful court dress is better looking, elegant and generous, and much better than those casually showing arms and thighs. Hasta still has a desire to survive in this matter. Sure enough, Sharon's complexion has improved a lot, and her expression has softened a bit. It turns out that Sharon still cares about this kind of opinion. That's right. Which girl can tolerate her favorite dress being criticized by other girls? Hasta understood and was very tactful, so he didn't mention these things. After walking around the street for a while, Sharon stopped when she passed a clothing store that was still open. She was looking through the transparent screen window at the various thin and simple dresses and revealing women's underwear displayed to pedestrians on the street. Hasta glanced at Sharon inadvertently and vaguely saw that Sharon's ear tips were slowly turning red. Finally, she retracted her gaze, calmed down, and pretended to leave as if nothing had happened. Hasta also took a special look and couldn't help but sighed, feeling that Emperor Russell really didn't leave any way for later travelers. These dresses and women's underwear styles are not much different from the underwear stores in the previous life. For Sharon, who has lived in Backland for many years, such a naked shock is no less than a shock to the soul. From bra wraps to tube tops to modern underwear, each advancement is more revealing and individual. In this respect, it is indeed quite free. Thinking of this, Hasta was a little curious whether the swimsuits in this world are the same as those in modern society. Swimsuit version of Sharon? With Sharon's personality, she would never dress like that. Hasta felt a little pity. When he retracted his gaze, Sharon, who had already taken 2 steps, was looking back at him with a scrutinizing look. Ahem, I'm just curious. Hasta explained, and Sharon only gave him a look of, "Do you think I believe you?" "Haha, little girl, your boyfriend will be unhappy with your dress. Men prefer girls to wear less, but they can't not wear anything. How to dress appropriately is a profound knowledge." A woman who just came out of a clothing store, dressed like a modern white-collar beauty, glanced at Sharon's dress and smiled and shared some experience with her. Completely ignoring Hasta's presence. With this topic, another passing wealthy merchant's wife also joined the topic. Women should be nicer to themselves, and buy new clothes and underwear frequently. Like me. I have to buy some new styles every month. Otherwise the one at home would have run away and cheated on me. Sharon opened her mouth slightly, as if she was shocked by the boldness of them discussing such things on the street. Finally, she glared at Hasta and signaled him to leave here with her quickly. Hasta held back his smile, and before leaving, he specially thanked these 2 kind people for their teachings and answers. After the episode, Sharon didn't have the interest to continue shopping, and she hid in the mirror as soon as she came back. Hasta could only sigh that the style of Intis was indeed different. No wonder Emperor Russell naturally integrated into this world, and even surpassed his master in this regard. In the basement of a luxurious villa in the western district of Trier, there is a big black tree about 5 meters high. Its crown is on top of the reinforced ground, and its roots, which have nowhere to stretch, can only curl up in a ball. The evil god Sueya stood up from a root in the soil at this moment, staring at the top of the crown. The sun that was wrapped tightly and not a single ray of light was revealed. For some reason, he suddenly had a premonition of something happening today, but he couldn't find out what exactly would happen, which woke him up from his deep sleep. This is the capital of Intis, and the Church of the Eternal Sun is nearby. In order not to be discovered, he can only try to hide his information by sleeping. But now, he was awakened. Spiritual warnings will not deceive him, which means that there may be major changes in Intis in the future. He did not peek blindly. If he peeked at a certain existence that could not be looked at directly, it would expose his current position. Now, he can only hope that this change will come later. It only takes another year or so, and the new sun that absorbs the faith of the Eternal Sun will be born. At that time, even if the Eternal Sun descends again, it will not be able to change the overall situation. The oracle he received was to hide in the dark and guard the birth of this new sun. The god Ea looked at the motionless black tree again, lay back, and the whole person merged into the tree roots that were thicker than his body. The Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun recently, as the Kingdom of Loan declared war on the Fusic Empire, the Republic of Intis followed suit, and the priests of the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun also became busy. However, during this period, the Pope was not in the church, which led to irreconcilable conflicts among some bishops. Originally, they all praised the sun, but now they are shrouded in a strange atmosphere. When the bell for the Pope to convene a divine meeting rang an hour before dawn, all the bishops who were still in the capital Trier hurried to the church temple. When the first rays of sunlight fell on the temple and flowed in from the stained glass, the Pope, who had disappeared for a while, put on the golden crown symbolizing the Pope again. He just stood there quietly, like the incarnation of the sun, and everything around him became warm. Here, any ice and darkness will be melted. God said that all heretics will be burned at the stake. Only on the stake will they cry and repent for their sins. Ross Hurley looked around at the 6 bishops standing below, holding the Pope's staff in his right hand, with a golden ball of light on top emitting golden rainbow light, filling the entire temple. Some sharp-eyed bishops found that this was a confinement technique to prevent people from escaping from here. Similar means and similar occasions were staged once decades ago. God is merciful, but this does not mean that someone can rely on the mercy of the gods to betray their faith and blaspheme the gods. The magnificent voice stirred the entire temple, and with a deep shout, 2 stakes rose from the ground, burning with golden flames. This is your last chance. Ross Hurley's eyes swept over the 6 bishops with uncertain faces, but still no one chose to stand up. You have betrayed God's mercy and my trust. With a whisper, 2 of the 6 bishops suddenly flew up by themselves, and flew towards the 2 prepared stakes with fear on their faces. They tried desperately to struggle, but here, His Holiness the Pope, wearing a golden crown, was the incarnation of the sun. The new sun will surely rise. The old and aging sun should sink into the boundless abyss. Haha, that is its final destination. The heaven is the kingdom of God that belongs to my Lord. The bishops, knowing that they were bound to die, shouted angrily and frantically. Unfortunately, their voices were soon replaced by extreme screams. The remaining 4 bishops looked at each other, not quite understanding what was going on. The new sun? Could it be? They couldn't help holding their breath, not daring to think any further, but their hands and feet gradually became cold. It has only been a short time, and 2 bishops, right here, under the gaze of the gods, suddenly changed their original beliefs. If His Holiness the Pope had not returned in time to deal with it, one day, the faith in the sun would no longer belong to the Eternal Sun. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.